seeing some of the players who missed out in the opening night of the draft get their opportunity over the next few picks that we'll get to.
Should be going live. Alright, that should be me live. Just waiting to hear my voice. Going live. Alright, that should be me live.
Start the process again.
Should be me live.
Start the process.
Yep. Alright, we are definitely good to go.
Draft, Cal.
We might lower
has there been
this
any
though.
murmurings about whether they could trade it off? Are they keeping it? What's the latest?
There has been a fair few murmurs, Matt, around what
in fact, I'll get it out to the socials.
Obviously, a bid come through a little bit earlier than expected on Harry Ralston, which probably should change their view of what their picks would look like. There's been targeted approaches from clubs looking at that selection now at pick 22 to see what they can do. It's basically pick one again, the pick one of the next night. So you get first choice of who's going to be there. You get a night to sleep on it and to work out who might be in the mix there. But the Giants at pick 22 hold the cards for the rest of things to unfold.
All right, so we are ready to go.
The Bulldogs,
if I get that up there.
Look, there's been conversations across today, but there hasn't been any movement as part of the pick swaps window that has just closed. There's 45 minutes the clubs had to do some trades before the event.
Yeah, I mean, we should be fine anyway.
5 through to 6:30. That's just obviously in the past couple of minutes closed without any trades being made. So we'll go into the night in about half an hour's time with the order as we expect. But Melbourne,
all right, but yeah, so if you guys want to put some comments in the chat, who you think will go where, predictions, yeah, just enjoy yourselves, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And yeah, if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't.
Really strong comes through, I think. So unlike a couple of years ago, it might be more like last year where there is a bit of a formula now where clubs are pretty happy with the group that's gotten through overnight and don't want to be trading out of there. The other part of this is that clubs really can only use their future picks to get a pick in now, and the point of that being,
yeah, I think we should, all the levels seem to be where they should be, so
North Melbourne's pick in the future, which is now tied to Adelaide, is being used as a chip for the Crows.
A few rumours saying that Joe Richards is going to be a Collingwood player by the end of this, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if there's any rumours and stuff, I'll make sure to let you guys know as well.
A couple of interesting selections for them coming too as well. They start tonight at pick 31 and then number 35 as well. So they're another club that we keep an eye on for a potential trade. But those talks now will resume when the draft resumes pretty shortly.
Yeah, which is in about 35 minutes or so. Now, the clubs are in Marvel Stadium, and so is our colleague Sarah Ollie. Let's get out to her now. Sarah, is it all systems go?
It's all systems go, Nat. I'm back. The Victory Room up here on Level C. Now, for those tuning in on the live stream at home, if you're thinking, what in the heck is Level C? Well, it's the corporate floor here at Marvel Stadium. This is where the corporate suites are. It's where our broadcast partners are. It's also where you might find Cal and Riley on match day completing their match reports on the buzzer. But of course, no footy today, so
there we go.
Instead of serving up food and booze in the corporate suites, they'll be serving up draft picks and potentially a few more trades of those draft picks. And when clubs are done here, Nat, Cal and Riley, we'll have a little chat to them and assess how they've all done. Of course, there's always winners and no losers when it comes to the draft period. And
there we go, that's better.
In particular, I'm looking forward to speaking to your sparring partner at the Swans list boss in Kinnear Beatson, because he absolutely blew the draft apart last night, and hopefully we're in for a little bit more excitement when that does happen. We will bring it to you here on the AFL Live app and afl.com.au. Nat?
He's a sparring partner of mine. I think he might be a sparring partner of a few clubs as well, given the activities and the agitation that he caused last night with bids on Max Michelini and also Harry Ralston. So it was one to watch, and the Swans are going to be another one to watch tonight.
Well, they certainly are, and I cannot wait for Sarah to interview him later on tonight. But let's go back and recap what happened on night one of the draft, of course. And Cal, You're all dynamic. You're standing up there with round one. I love it at the
Dynamic.
plasma. Take us through because it all started,
You'll be able to grab
obviously.
him, and that's the next year you should be able to.
Oh, yes, I like this. I like it. Now, Aaron Cadman, obviously the #1 draft pick of the NAB AFL Draft. And then Will Ashcroft, that bid coming there.
Yeah, if you can send that ASAP, that'd be great. Thanks, mate.
Draft in a moment, but just talk us through how it played out.
Yeah, well, as expected in the early part, wasn't it, with Aaron Cadman at the Giants getting their key forward there, Will Ashcroft, the bid coming for him via North Melbourne, Harry Sheasel and George Wardlaw, their duo that have been so strongly linked to them for a little while now. Of course, this was a big selection. We knew that clubs down here, Melbourne, or no, Melbourne's over here now. Melbourne there, the Bulldogs were looking to get up as well, potentially if the right deal was on the cards. The Gold Coast had to think about too good to pass up for the Cats, and just so helped that he was a couple of minutes away down the road. He's a couple of hours down the road. Ruben Jimby from his club in Dunsborough. He goes up to Perth to join the Eagles, and they did the double act, the WA double act in Elijah Hewitt and Jimby. So a couple of powerful midfielders with some speed and movement through the midfield there. Mateus Philippo, such a talked about.
There we go. All right, we're back.
Tonight. Where would he go? He's a bit of the wild card within the top group, but the Saints find a potential match winner there. Look, clearly the Dogs and the Blues are looking for runners to start with. Oliver Hollands got there. I think he would have been right in the mix had the Dogs been available to get him. The Dogs then made the bid on Jasper Fletcher, who, of course, the Lions matched as a father-son selection, got the key defender, Jed Buslinger. Matt Jefferson got to the Ds, their key forward. They're obviously wrapped with that. Harry Ralston, this is where it got interesting role. As you mentioned before, the Swans, while they were on the clock, made a bid on Harry Ralston, which was matched by the Giants and saw their pick.
Yeah, which basically wasted a whole entire pick that they could have used.
Which, of course, the Crows.
But they could have traded out that pick and got so much more value out of it.
They still didn't want it.
They still didn't want it. They made the call to trade back. They've got another pick here in the 20s, and Hawthorn have jumped back up to take their second pick inside the first round and take Josh Weddle. So, good player. They moved a bit of stuff to make that happen, but a key defender. I think the Pies will be wrapped to get Ed Allen at that point of the draft. And then, of course, things finished off with a couple of small forwards, Jacob Constanti and Darcy Jones. So, that was how we probably predicted a lot of it to go, but it still has to play out that way, and there were some surprises. And I think this drama in here was a big talking point overnight around how that all played out from the Swans' perspective, what they were doing there, and trading back as well to make all those moves.
So let's see how it did play out.
Okay, yep. All right, get on to it.
Well, this is the Phantom, and this is how it went, because you can see all the green on the left-hand side. We're saying you went 13 from 13, really, Cal?
Yeah, we're going with 13.
I mean, it looks quite nice there with the green, doesn't it?
You're trying to stir me.
I'm not.
For those out there who are colourblind, I feel your pain because I actually can't see which ones I got right or wrong.
It looks like a Christmas board.
Well, yeah, that's true. Sort of, which is is good because I didn't want to see any of the ones that I got wrong anyway. So those runs, yeah. I was nervous about the Bombers, but I still thought that Elijah Sardis was probably going to be their guy, and Cam McKenzie was a little bit nervous about that. I thought if those two went that way, then we'd probably get the rest in that order.
Alright, there we go. Thumbnail has been changed. In fact, I might put it in the playlist.
Used on Elijah Hewitt instead. So
actually, no, I'll leave it for now.
Picked the wrong WA
Yeah,
play there.
much
We
it.
thought the Demons would get Jefferson if it went that way.
Alright, all good. Alright, yeah, thumbnail has changed.
Yeah, Canning Fletcher because he moved obviously was going
and
to the Lions under
yeah, we are officially all good to go.
These players are still on the board. Lockie Cowan, Jacob Ryan, they're still available today, and we'll talk about them shortly. Braden George.
Well, could Braden George actually end up at the Giants?
You're unlucky here.
Yeah, that could actually be switched around.
Come on. We're counting that as a win as well, I think. So, and these guys are going to be interesting today, and we'll get to them shortly. But Elijah Hewitt clearly is off the board. But
yeah, Lockie Cowan's a bit of an interesting one. I'm surprised that.
Make it green. They press that button.
Surprised he wasn't taken in the first round.
Lewis Hayes, Tom McCallum, Max Krzyzewski, a few of the talls who are expected to be taken over the first 10 or so selections tonight. Harry Barnett, another player who could be around this mark as well for the Eagles. Been linked in there. Charlie Clark, I think, is a chance to get to the Bulldogs if the Giants don't take him there as well. Braden George and Max Krzyzewski have been linked to that that Giants pick if they do hold. They have had some interest, as we mentioned.
Elijah
before,
Hill,
but
didn't he?
there's
Oh, yeah,
options
he
there.
was the
Heels
Edward
and
Allen
Martin
pick.
could be in
That's
the
right.
mix.
Well, we will chat about some of those players that are still available in just a moment. But for now, it was such a wonderful night. Last night, there are so many wonderful stories out of the first night of the draft. So let's take a look at a little something behind the scenes.
There we go. All right, we're back. So, thoughts on the belief for Elijah is on the side, isn't it?
Absolutely love that piece. It was put together, cut and edited by Jack Clark. So thank you so much to Clarky. That was absolutely fabulous. And you, mate, how did you get in there? I thought you were in here with us.
Like
Well, that was good.
Oh, that was
good.
That had good sound.
This
to
one,
it.
that was the shake of the moment. I think if you got $1 for every bro shake, you'd be rich.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Moving on, there are about 40 selections or so that are about to come your way, probably in about 20 minutes or so.
Can't come soon enough.
No, well, I just noticed that when I was up there, like they weren't shaking hands. The
No,
boys.
they were
very much,
doing the
very
bro
much
shake.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's fine. I don't know how to do that, so you might have to show me afterwards. I'm a stickler for the old traditional handshake. Let's talk about some of the players that are still available, Cal. And we might as well start with the team from Devonport in Lockie Cowan.
Yeah, he's a good player, Lockie County. He's a prospect who I think was on the
A
radar
very
of
good player,
clubs
actually.
inside the first round as well. Put their general defender, can play in the midfield too. He's a booming kick, good size, probably one of those high backs who can move through the middle. Was a joint winner of the Morris Medal across this year as well, Riley, and had a pretty dominant season for Tasmania. You spoke to him at the Combine as well. He's been pretty pleased with how he's gone this season. Yeah,
it's funny actually, you mentioned that he won the Morris Medal. When he was told that he'd won the Morris Medal, he didn't actually know what the Morris Medal was. So he said, "What's that?" And they told him it's for the best player in the NAB League, and he thought they were taking the piss out of him. But no, that's on the back of his great season.
Jesus.
Training kick, but the drive that he also adds through his legs and his running power means that he's got two weapons in terms of providing that rebound at a half-back, which I really like. And I'd imagine Cal, that he's a player that's probably going to go in the first few picks tonight.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a few clubs that are looking at him. We talk about the Giants, the Bulldogs, the Bombers, North Melbourne. I can't see him getting through to North Melbourne, to be honest. I think if he did, that he'd be right.
I know Collingwood have had a few interviews late, so if he slips to 25, I wouldn't be surprised.
Number of selections tonight, and he would be deserving.
But I'm hoping for Huswaite and
What about Braden George from the Murray Bushrangers?
Huswaite and Lemmy, I think, is probably who I'd like to get.
2023, he had a knee reconstruction late in the season.
This kid's gonna be good.
I really hope he can get back to what he showed.
This kid's gonna be very good. I mean, the club's gonna have to wait about 12 months for him to get ready, but my God, this kid is good.
Just hanging on him, free kick. He is a player who knows how to kick goals. He can bang him in from a long way out. I always joke with Josh Rochelle that he might be a better kick than Josh, and Josh doesn't like that. Yeah, Murray Bushrangers teammates. So there's definitely a little bit of Josh in the way he can get some action around the goal. This was a game I was at earlier this year, kicked 5 in the first round of the season and dominated inside 50. A knee injury at the start of the season ruled him out for about 8 weeks or so. Came back.
Thanks everyone for tuning into the stream. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any questions for me, put them in the chat as we'll watch day 2 of the draft.
I really do believe that he would have had such a dominant season, and his talent is that strong. I've mentioned it a couple of times. He reminds me so much of what Christian Petrarca was like as a bottom major before he moved through the midfield, just inside 50, being a bit of a beast in there. So he could well be he is one of the guys who's in the mix for the Giants. First pick tonight. I think the Bulldogs would look at him as well if he got through to that point. But yeah, there's a lot of clubs who will be really keen to take a shot at his talent.
And it's not a bad comparison to make as well, given the fact that we know Christian Petrarca did an ACL very early in his football journey as well. And look at what he's become as a Norm Smith medalist and such a fantastic player for Melbourne in that premiership season in 2020.
Where do you think he would be a good fit, Riley?
I think it'd be a good fit anywhere. I look at these players that are 187, 188 centimetres, but when they're forward half players and they can take a mark above their head, they're so hard to match up on.
Yep.
They're such an awkward matchup because you can't put a small defender on them because they'll beat them in the air, but you can't put a key position defender on them because they're so good at ground level as well. So I think he's almost that prototype player now that a lot of clubs are looking for in the modern game, that can be the forward half difference maker. We've seen Christian Petrarca do that when he does play forward. He's now since gone into the midfield and become a champion midfielder as well. But so many players...
Probably a better comparison because I know De Goey used to be more forward mid. He was probably what De Goey was, what, 2 years ago? So, this kid's very good too. Very good goal sense. Yeah. Basically a Toby Green type. If you want a Toby Green type player, this is your guy. Even Papley, Toby Green, someone in that sort of vein. Very good player.
One day and had a dominant day out and showed that he can go through the midfield stage as well. Was pretty good for Vic Metro at different stages. Played in the Sandringham Dragons Premiership in the NAB League as well. Yeah, he's a goer. He's just a high energy, high octane, creative and classy around goal. So he's another player who the Giants have looked at really strongly. It's going to be interesting to see if they do go with him, given they did pick up a small last night in Darcy Jones. So they pick another player who's of a similar ilk, but he'll be around that mark. I think the Bulldogs would again be looking at him potentially, and North Melbourne as well. So I think he'll be one of the first names called out tonight.
All right, looking at a defender now from South Australia in Jacob Ryan. What can you tell us about him in terms of his strengths and aside from his amazing hair?
Yeah, mullets and both earrings as well. He's got
So Jacob Ryan, probably similar. If you want a Collingwood comparison, probably maybe like a Noble. Someone that runs off half back, a bit taller than him on. Will be a fantastic player for whoever picks him up in the draft.
I wonder if Sydney would be looking at him as well at 27, if it might be an option for them there, whether or not clubs attempt to try and trade up and grab him again as a player that was talked about as a potential first night prospect, given he's still on the board early in the second night, whether or not it becomes a trade option for clubs. He's also got that really loping running style, which makes him a bit more of a fan favourite, I think. He's quick, but sometimes he can get the ball and you don't know what's coming next, which I really like about him. He's got that unpredictability to his game.
Yeah, have a nice little sidestep there or two.
3 seconds in the 20 and 6:15 in the 2-kilometre time trial. So that's a really good mix for a player his size.
Yeah, a lovely mix indeed. Well, ruckman are often
might
hard
actually
to
lower
find,
this,
and
actually.
Harry Barnett is probably the best one in this year's draft pool. He's from West Adelaide and also athletic, and you've likened him to Brodie Grundy, Cal.
Yeah, I think he plays...
Oh, Jesus, that's a bit much. I mean, he's easily the best ruckman in the draft, but I don't know if you'd say Brodie Grundy.
Capability to take a mark like that and be your long kick down the line and be able to stop it that way, but also go forward. At ground level for a ruck is really strong. He played at senior level for West Adelaide this season. Actually spoke to Hamish Hartlett, the former Port Adelaide player, who was playing alongside him and said his ruck work was his ruck craft as Max Gorn would call it, was spot on. So he is a player who I think is definitely in the sights of a few clubs tonight. Has been linked to Melbourne, of course, at different stages over the past couple of days, but also the Giants.
Yeah, there was a rumour Melbourne were going to trade up to get him, so we'll see if that happens.
They get on the board tonight at their first pick, which is 23. So, yeah, it takes the right club to pick a ruckman. Yeah. We know that. And he was probably on talent right around that end of first round type of area of the draft. But yeah, at his size, 202, he's going to be warehouse. Like, he's not going to be playing a lot of senior footy in the next year or two. But
depending on the team, though. I mean, if he's in a bottom 6 team, I could see him play at some point. Not 22, 23 games, but definitely in a bottom 6 team, you probably could get 10 games out of him.
They've got 2 of the last 5 All-Australians in Brodie Grundy and Max Gorn on their list, but this is a player that might take 4 or 5 years to develop it, and by that stage Max Gorn will be coming to the end of his AFL career and they'll be looking for the next guy to take the reins from him. I'm intrigued and fascinated by how many ruckmen you think might actually go tonight, and whether or not there are more on the board a bit further on, and whether or not if clubs at the top end miss out on someone like Harry Barnett, whether there are more later in the draft. Yeah, there are a few. I don't know how many will get taken tonight. There are some with interest late. There's a boy called Max Noble who's 207, 208 centimetres, is still growing. So it's hard to find players.
There's a kid called Clay Tucker, for those who don't know. He's another ruckman. With Collingwood have interest in Clay Tucker, so if we have
Not a dilemma.
I guess if he's available and we've got our pick 51 ready to go, wouldn't be surprised if we pick up a Clay Tucker.
See if he gets through to mid-season next year after a bit more exposed form.
But yeah, I'd highly doubt it.
The son of Trent Noble, former AFL player, of course, who's done a little bit of coaching across this year. Clay Tucker's another ruckman.
There we go.
At the Eastern Rangers program. Hudson O'Keefe, I think, is a possibility later on as well. And Cam Owens, a Tasmanian prospect who could be in the mix later on.
And you talk about the mid-season draft as well, but looking at the number of picks that each club has, say, even a Hawthorn has quite a few, but could they look to save some of them so they have spots available for that mid-season draft?
Absolutely, mid-season and also the pre-season supplemental period as well. So you need to have a spot open, at least one, to be able to invite players to train with your club. And we've seen some great success stories out of the SSP over recent years. And Nick Martin was one this year for the Bombers, right up there in the Rising Star voting as well, out of an SSP signing being overlooked in multiple drafts. So, yeah, I think clubs are keeping that in mind. And like you say, the Hawks entered with, 6 or 7 selections, but we're only ever going to use sort of 4 or 5 at the draft. They do the deal. So it's all very fluid. But as I said at the start of the show, we had 21 picks in night one. I'm expecting there to be somewhere between 57 and 62 picks. I'll say 59 just for the sake of accuracy. Let's see if we're close later on.
Oh, I can't wait. We'll be counting down.
Remember the number.
The broadcast will finish it. Our coverage will finish
Right on pick
at 59 no matter what.
Oh, they're still picking? No, we're off.
No, sorry. Well, strap yourselves in because we have a big night ahead. We're probably about 10 to 15 minutes away from night 2 of the 2022 NAB AFL Draft kicking off. But in the meantime, one of the best things about the draft, of course, is the reaction of family, friends, and the draftees themselves when their names are finally called out. Let's take a look at a little snapshot of what happened last night.
Unbelievable, so excited, like, I had no idea, I'm just so excited to get cracking in, like, to be honest, yeah, cannot believe it. He did, he sent me like this cryptic text message, this weird text message, I had no idea what it meant, said like something like good luck, hope you play X amount of games. I was like, what? About 10 minutes before the draft started, so yeah, I had no idea.
Pick 7, Hawthorn select Cameron McKenzie. Select Jacob.
We are here today to welcome Elijah Hewitt to our footy club.
What's up, G? Yeah, good, man. Congratulations.
Thanks so much, appreciate it.
Mate, stoked as we got the crew here.
Mate, thank you. It's an incredible experience. I'm just so fortunate to be able to give me the opportunity to be at this amazing club. I was given a polo, but I always figured that on draft night you want to wear the jersey, so I was just, put it on straight away and I'm not taking it off for a while.
Straight on, 6-pack out and everything. I think he's going to fit right in.
Pick 19, Collingwood select Edwin Allen.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions in the chat, feel free to put them in. Anything that you guys want to discuss or anything like that. If you haven't already, make sure to like the stream. Make sure to subscribe for future content because I will be doing more content after this for sure. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and continue with this stream.
This is so good. I absolutely love that. Especially all the boys on schoolies, the lads chanting out George Wardlaw's name and Cam McKenzie. That was good. Good scenes.
Love those videos. Love those videos. And it's a good moment, isn't it? Captured in time. Jacob Constanti, I think, takes the cake. He's jumping around by himself. You can see he's going to get along with Tom Papley up at the Swans. That is a annoying forward line already.
Yep, I can feel it coming and there's going to be lots of niggle. We absolutely love it. All right, let's take a look at some of the other players who are available and still on these draft boards. The recruiters will be going through it. They'll have their lists out Lewis Hayes, a tall defender, obviously the younger brother of Sam Hayes at Port Adelaide, Cal.
Yeah, that's correct. He's nearly at the same height, 199 centimetres, so he's genuine key position size. And what I like about Lewis Hayes is that he marks the footy himself and he goes for his grabs. He's quite an attacking defender, so he's really comfortable. It was one of his intercepts.
So yeah, so we'll definitely get the stream going soon. I mean, obviously they're just doing a bit of a pre-match. Pre-talk. But yeah, once it gets started, it'll go pretty quickly. So we'll just make sure to be ready by then.
There's some clubs that have interest in him in the 20s as well. We'll see if Collingwood potentially takes a look at him. The Bombers as well could look for a key defender around that mark off the draft. St Kilda as well, I think, is a chance if you got that far too. So, and Carlton potentially a little bit further on. And Port Adelaide, well, they sit, where's their pick at this point? It's back at 36. That's going to be unlikely they get to that point off the draft, but I'm sure if he was there, I think he'd be reuniting with his brother.
With key defenders now, it's rare that they're taken early in the draft. We haven't seen it much in the past couple of years. I know Josh Gibcus and Denver Granger Brass are the exceptions, and obviously Jacob Wedding back when he went pick 1, but not many are taken early in the draft. I think the one thing you look for with key defenders, though, is closing speed. And he broke 3 seconds in the 20-metre sprint at the draft combine, which suggests he has that as well as the ability, as you mentioned, Cal, to back himself in and intercept marks.
He's also one of the youngest players in the draft pool too, because he doesn't turn 18 till December, much like Mateus Filippo, who's one of the youngest as well.
Yeah, and I think clubs do look at that. It's not just a stat or number. It is a matter of the averages do say that generally the guys who play well in their draft year are the ones born a little bit earlier, so that 6 to 8 months can sometimes be a big factor in the development when you're 17 and 18. So clubs will take that on board. And as I say, I think there's a lot of development left in him physically. I don't think he'll be stepping into an AFL backline next year, but there's a lot to work with as well.
The next player I want to talk about is a player I really have enjoyed watching at the Sandy Dragons. That's Ollie Houghton. I also liked what he produced at the draft combine, Riley, because he was really good. He tested well in the 20-metre sprint and the vertical jump as well. So he's got some explosiveness, doesn't he?
Well, that's the best part of his game. He's a great evasive player. He can mark. He can jump. He's got genuine X factor when he does play in the forward half of the ground as well. I just spoke to him at the draft combine, and he said that he didn't really back himself to use that natural athleticism at the start of the year. He was playing
it'd be interesting to see where Houghton goes. I don't think I don't think he'll be picked up by Collingwood, but it'll definitely be interesting to see where he goes.
For Collingwood and also for Carlton, I think he played 75 games in total. Never reached 100 for either club though, so he won't be eligible to join both as a father-son. He's a unique story as well in the sense that we asked him who he bagged for, was it Collingwood or Carlton? And he said, I'm 50-50. He bags for both sides, which you don't really see much of when you got the two rivals like that.
You can't bag for both Carlton and Collingwood. Like, that's weird.
Not many
that's
people
really
would sit
weird.
on that
It's like
fence,
saying you bag for Essendon and Hawthorn.
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
It wouldn't happen.
So I was just a little bit distracted, and Nat's phone went off, and it was her Be Real. That's what I was laughing at. I don't know.
Should we do a Be Real? Should we do a Be Real?
I don't really know what
I mean,
it
we've
is,
got some time to kill because this is, what we're doing here. This is really great TV.
Just on Houghton as well, I think that there's clubs inside the 30 who will look at him. Collingwood is a chance to take him with one of their 2 picks. If he got through to Freo's selection as well, that could be an option as well. So he'll be taking the first 10 or 15. I think tonight. The Bulldogs have been linked as well. I'm not sure if that's going to be for whatever their pick is, 25. I'm losing track of the numbers because of the bids and everything. And then their second one might more be their pick in the 30s that he comes into contention.
All right, here you go. Let's do a Be Real.
Be us.
What great TV this is. Okay, let's move on because we do want to talk about...
Oh, absolutely thrilling over here.
Still available. And we mentioned Lockie Cowan, a Tasmanian. Well, there is another one. We haven't had that many Tasmanians drafted over the last few years, but Tom McCullum is another one of these, a key defender. Yeah, and I think people will probably see him as a potential surprise in this range of the draft. We haven't ranked him quite as highly as this throughout this season, but clubs clearly have. And he's around this mark. He's a 193 centimetre prospect. Played really well for the Allies across.
Probably better as a third tall. Similar to like a Jeremy Howe, but
so he's not a really polished player by foot, but what he lacks for there, he makes up for with real athleticism, strength, and he, as we see here, some of the take me on stuff that we get out of the back half is really exciting. So there are some clubs looking at him. It's hard to find that mix in key defenders. There aren't too many on the board at this point of the draft who can do the things that McCallum's been able to do across this year. A good player for the Allies.
Probably maybe a decent comparisons, maybe like a Paul Mantau, like, and maybe potentially if he bulks up and is in the system for a few years, maybe he could become like a Jeremy Howe. But that's where I would probably see him.
Because he can kind of play both ends, and as you can see there, 193 centimetres. Do you see him more as a defender?
It's a good question. I've seen him play good footy at both ends off the ground. Takes some good hangers. He's one.
Yeah.
His hands and his marking is his weapon. That's his trick.
Yep.
That's what he's really, really good at. So even though 193 might not be quite at the 195, 196 size of other key backs in the pool, we just spoke about Lewis Hayes at 199 centimetres. Grzuski's a great grab, and he just managed to outbody his players, whether front or in defence. So yeah, good hands, knows how to get to the drop of the ball, and is a fierce sort of competitor as well. So every club's going to have a different view on where he fits in positionally, I think. And there's nothing wrong with sort of starting your career as a bit of a swingman as well, and knowing that you can do a bit of both, depending on what.
He would be a genuine swingman. Like, he can probably do both just as well.
The Giants have been linked. I'm not sure if that'll be for the first pick they have or their next pick.
I'd probably have him more as a forward personally, because like just the spark that he has, that X factor. I feel like that'd be more. He'd have more damage in a forward line, so I think he'd be more valuable as a forward. But definitely as a defender, he would still add. He would still add a lot of value for sure.
Fans are going to fall in love with him. I certainly did when I interviewed him at the draft combine, and we've had him on the Road to the Draft podcast as well with his twin Jaden. Just a really
Jaden, I thought it was Jackson. Okay.
I guess he's still a kid. Oakley Chargers.
Apparently they reckon Jaden's the better of the two as well. So
where some of his best games have come across this year. So this was his best game of the year playing.
Yeah, he does play extremely well. For sure.
For the Oakley Chargers, his best game for the Oakley Chargers this year came in Elijah Sardis' best game for the Oakley Chargers this year against.
I was surprised he wasn't picked up in the first round, to be honest.
Join Sardis at the Bombers as a father-son.
But yeah, he'll definitely be inside 30 for sure.
So they've got 25. They want it to get past and hope the bid doesn't come before then.
And the indication is that will happen. I think it'd be a surprise now if the bid does come before that point. And sometimes once it passes the pick, sometimes those father-sons and academy players can just skip through a few more.
Well, they're lucky the Sydney Swans are at pick 27. So I'd say if the Swans...
Because Essendon got pick 22, I believe. And then plus the father and sons, I think they've got like pick 26, I think. So he's definitely worth pick 26 for sure. No doubt. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
This year with a serious knee injury, where do you see him?
So if I was Essendon, I'd just use the pick on him.
Because he's more like Uncle Aaron.
Yeah, that's right. I think he's got some ability to play in the forward line as a small forward, go up the ground as well. And what we haven't seen of Jaden is just that exposed sort of footy against the top-notch opponents. So that's why there isn't too much vision of Jaden, because obviously we've been through COVID over the last couple of years in Victoria. He's been boarding at Xavier College with his brother as well in Melbourne, hence why he's been able to play for the Oakley Chargers. And, but in saying that, he hasn't played for them because he's been out for those back-to-back knee reconstructions. But tracking pretty well. We'll take a long-term view once he gets to the Bombers officially. But I think it's probably most likely that a bid doesn't come for him and they just are able to grab him with their last selection.
All right, waiting for things just to kick off here on night 2, but it is the Giants who have the first pick of tonight's draft. That starts at pick 22. They also had the final pick of the first round, which was last night. They took Darcy Jones at pick 21. So we're just
so four picks sounds about right.
I know in your Phantom
there we go, 28-30.
Giants also selecting Braden George, and he'd be a real chance to go here, do you think?
Well, yeah, I'm barracking for that.
Obviously.
I think he's right in that mix. I think he'd have to be right in that conversation. I think Charlie Clark could be in that conversation as well. Jacob Ryan is a player who we haven't spoken too much about, but would be in the mix as well for a lot of clubs.
I wonder if we would trade out pick 28 for maybe in St Kilda. For St Kilda, it's 31 and 35. I wonder if that's something we could do.
Coming through their academy, Nick Madden, who might be the young ruck they take.
But then again, Hine has said that he's already had multiple offers, so
tonight's draft.
we'll
There's other ones
see how it plays
a
out.
little bit to Barnett as well. The Bulldogs been spoken about with Charlie Clark and Braden George and Lockie Cowan if they get there. Lewis Hayes potentially in the mix for the Bombers, Braden George and Lockie Cowan. Again, Lockie Cowan likely to be firmly in the sights of North Melbourne at 26 if he was able to get to that point. What will the Swans do? I'm interested to see there. Could they take a flyer? Could it be Caleb Smith, who's been a late bolter, I guess you'd say, towards this year's draft? They've had some interest there. Could it be Bailey McDonald, another player with speed who's come on in the second half of this season, who the Swans have shown some interest in? Where does Joe Richards go, the small forward from Wangaratta, who's 22, turning 23 this year? Where does he end up? Because a number of clubs in that range, including Collingwood, Port Adelaide, Geelong a little bit further back, St Kilda, all going to have a look at Joe Richards, I think, and as a potential pickup. The Giants as well being one of the clubs.
Yeah, in about 10 minutes, guys, we'll probably get started. I believe 7:20 is when they start to do the picks.
The two that they picked up as father-son bids in the first round.
So I've got another 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, they'll be done now, but I mean, they've had their work done for them already. I mean, it would have been an easy night for Steve Knoll, their recruiting manager, in the sense that, match the bids on two of the best 15 players in the draft and then get out of there. I mean, and what an off-season it's been for them. We spoke a little bit about it last night, but a side that was in premiership contention already, finished top 4, made a preliminary final last year, adds Josh Dunkley into the football club, Connor McKenna into the football club, Jack Gunston into the football club, and then Will Ashcroft and Jasper Fletcher, who will be players, hopefully, for the Brisbane Lions for the next 10 to 15 years. So even though they won't be making another pick tonight, they've done so well up until this point. Their work in the trade period is to be commended for what they've managed to do. They've managed to find picks to match points to match those two bids on those players. So they've done exceptionally well over this summer. The pressure now builds going on to them next year, I think, given the sense that they probably in all likelihood will start among the premiership favourites, and deservedly so. I think they should be the premiership favourite going into next year, given the off-season they've had. So, it's going to be a fascinating and intriguing season for Brisbane in 2023, because I think the time is now for them to take that next step and really challenge for a flag.
So, Cal, the Fletcher bid came a little bit earlier than they had expected, but just to be clear, they didn't go...
Thanks, everybody, for tuning into the stream. If you haven't already, make sure to make sure to like the stream. And if you haven't already and you want to stay up to date with future content, make sure to subscribe as well. Thanks, everyone, for showing the support. Yesterday was already amazing enough as it was, and tonight you guys have definitely shown that support again. Couldn't be more grateful. Thanks, everybody.
Another midfielder, and then Darcy Jones as well, who is very versatile and can pretty much play anywhere.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you look at the potentially the first players that might be chosen tonight, like the Charlie Clarks and the Braden Georges, and whether or not they did that side of their business late last night and getting Darcy Jones, who they see as starting his career as a small forward to the football club alongside Aaron Cadman. I'd pinpointed going into this draft period that I think their biggest need going forward was to address quite a threadbare forward line. I expect, even though they moved Harry Himmelberg into the back line last year, I'm fully expecting him to play forward again in 2023, Harry Himmelberg.
I liked what he did down back.
I did as well, but just speaking to a few people at the club, I'm fully expecting him now to go back into a forward role next year. So that's where probably be the main mentor for Aaron Cadman, his first season in the league, playing as that number one key forward for the Giants. They've got Darcy Jones now as a small forward. I still think they probably need to build out their midfield depth a little bit more. I know they got Harry Rouston into the football club last night, but with Tim Taranto and Jacob Hopper leaving the club during the trade period.
Tanner Bruin
as well. The two or three of their best inside midfielders at the club. So I still think they do need to address that tonight.
All right, here we go.
They've got the first pick in the draft.
Here we go. We're started. All right, let's go.
To touch on that is because whereas normally, and we saw last night, clubs had 5 minutes once they're on the clock to then make that bid. They've had a full 24 hours for clubs to come and call them. I spoke to a couple of clubs last night that said they were just waiting for the phone to ring throughout their 5 minutes. They knew who they were going to take, but they just wanted to make it sure just to see any contingency plans that clubs didn't come in with a godfather offer for that pick that they couldn't say no to. The Giants have had 24 hours now to get this right and to listen to phone calls and then to make their decision.
Well, they're on the clock now with about 4 minutes remaining are the Giants, and we do believe that they are going to use this pick, Cal. There was some murmurings throughout the day, of course, whether they might trade.
Yeah, they said that they could have traded, but I don't think they will.
We got to 6:30, I think, between 5:45 and 6:30, where you could actually trade that.
It's actually kind of smart because I actually came out and said, hey, if you got a future first you guys want to use, you guys can have the first pick of you know, day 2 of the trade period. Sorry, draft period. So I mean, I don't mind the tactic. That's for sure.
In the mix for this Giants pick. And look, is it a needs pick here? Do you have to weigh up, as you said, Riley, what you've already brought in? How much of an effect is that versus...
They do need a midfielder, so I'm kind of worried that they might go for Huswaite.
Who's left over. So I think Braden George
I hope they don't go after Huswaite.
Would complement the group in different ways.
Just looking ahead as well, West Coast have got a couple of picks coming up too. And Riley, I'm keen to get your view. Just obviously a top 10 pick in Ruben Ginbey coming, and then Elijah Hewitt. But they haven't had a top 10 pick in a long time. I think it was since Andrew Gaff was taken. And they're starting this, I guess, rebuild. I'm not sure they want to call it a rebuild. But how important is it for West Coast to get this right?
Pretty important. I mean, we spoke last night about the fact they've only had 5 top 20 picks since they took Andrew Gaff in 2010, and of them only 3 remain in Dom Sheed, Liam Duggan and Campbell Chesser, who they took last year. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure for them to get it right. I think they had a really good night last night in bringing Ruben Ginbey and Elijah Hewitt into their football club. Two really strong midfielders for them.
They're very good players. Very good players.
So I think for them, they can't necessarily address needs just yet. They just have to take best available player, because they've been without blue chip draft prospects for so long, primarily because of their finishing position. They've been such a consistent, successful side.
Oh, here we go. Pick is in.
So,
and they gave up a lot for Tim Kelly also.
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting watch for them coming up next. But the Giants, their pick is in.
All right, their pick is in. Well, we know they haven't traded it, that is for sure. So we take a look at what the Giants...
Oh, please don't pick up Huswaite.
We need a drum roll. We need some sound effects, don't you think?
Oh, that's next year's draft night live.
It's coming, it's coming.
Who is it?
Who is it? Tell us who it is.
It will be
one of those names that you...
Well, I have a feeling that Huswaite's going to get picked up by West Coast now.
Who might get through to 30 and who might not as well.
It could be a payback for getting for us picking up Ed Allen.
So they just bite the bullet here, which I think...
There we go.
There we go, the defender.
Yeah, and the swingman, he's able to play both ends of the ground.
Very good pick. Very good pick.
Potentially in the 30s.
Yes.
And I think now they've probably thought, well, there's those clubs that other clubs...
I really hope Huswaite doesn't go to... Oh, man. I hope he doesn't go to West Coast. I hope he doesn't go to any other team but Collingwood, actually, to be fair. I mean, there's been a couple of back and forth sort of moves like this. So we've taken Ed Allen. Maybe they want to take Huswaite.
So yeah, Max Krzyzewski goes there and bolsters, you know, their key department stocks.
At either end.
Yeah.
Could be at either end. He could be partnering Sam Taylor and Lech Lear and Nick Haynes down back. Could be partnering Harry Himmelberg.
I'd be fairly safe with the Bulldogs pick. I don't think Bulldogs would pick up Huswaite.
Marking ability, not necessarily.
So we'll see.
Leaping as Jeremy Howe, but the way that he takes his marks and the way that he positions himself on the field, if he was to start his career as a defender, that's the player that he reminds me of. So they've got 4 down.
I wonder if they go
West Coast on the clock.
I wonder if they go for Joe Richards at 34. That'd be interesting if he's still on the board there.
Okay.
Do you expect them to use 34 and 51, their final 2 selections?
No, I think
probably
they just
keep
use
one up their sleeve.
their 5th one.
Yeah,
I think that if the right play's there, they use that one tonight, I believe. But now the Eagles are on the clock. And
they are. So we spoke about Ginbey and Hewitt, so what do they need?
Well, they've gone powerful midfielders to start, haven't they? And they've been linked to Kobe Bergiel as well, who's a prospect with genuine speed. So if they go for him here...
Okay, well, Huswaite's not power. Huswaite's more finesse, more...
They could probably run that risk, whereas if you're going for Harry Barnett as a potential option here, I'm not sure he would get through to that point.
I wouldn't call Huswaite explosive.
Will come up in discussions. Charlie Clark's been, you know, around this mark of the draft as well. I think Tom McCallum is a key defender, another tall who could be around there. But yeah, we've spoken a lot about Harry Barnett potentially being in the Eagles' sights, and they looked for Ruckman during the trade period as well. Lloyd Meek was a player that they did have a look at there.
Yes, okay.
Well, I mean, if Ruckman are hard to find and hard to come by, and they're looking for one, obviously with Nick Natanui towards the end of his career, then that sounds like a pretty good pick. And they have
there you go. So they have gone to Ruckman. It does make sense when you think about it. Like Nick Nat's not getting any younger, and I couldn't even tell you who's their backup.
He's 202.
Still some room to grow.
There's Lyset's over in Port now. I mean, but he's been gone for ages.
But he's had some sample, like senior your sample experience too is pretty good.
And he can jump. I like that about him. There's some ruckmen,
Who can't jump.
Yeah, who aren't big jumpers. He's a jumper. He's a leaper. That's why we talk about the Grundy style. The Grundy style of player that he could be. So, look, another player out of South Australia who's had genuine interest. The Demons were among the clubs there. Obviously, Adelaide as well had some interest in getting back into the draft. Could have been for him. Also, Jacob Ryan might have been a chance for that too. So they add to their mix there. They've got 2 midfield stars at the top end and players who are ready to play straight away. I think it's a good-looking sort of crop of prospects that they can bring in.
Yeah.
It's looking very nice.
So Bulldogs have picked up Fuzzlinger, so you wouldn't think that they would go after Hayes either. But their midfield's too strong. You wouldn't think they'd go after Housewaite. So I don't know. Would you want another small forward, maybe like a Charlie Clark or something, or a? I mean, Jacob Ryan. Maybe they need a dashing defender.
They lost Scott Lysette a couple of years ago.
They don't really need tools. They need probably more smaller players, like a small forward or a small defender.
I don't know if they go for Braden George, or do they go with Lockie Cowan or Charlie Clark? I think they're the guys that I'd be...
Yeah, I completely forgot about Lockie Cowan.
With their first selection, which ended up being...
But it'd be someone small. I don't think they'd go after anyone with height, because they've already got so many key position players.
In Lewis Hayes and also Tom McCallum, you'd think they go for something a little bit different.
Especially given how well stocked they are already for key position talent. We spoke about that a
Exactly what I just said.
They've got players like Sam Darcy, who they could throw down there, but they just brought Liam Jones into their football club. They've already got Alex Keith and Ryan Gardner.
Yeah, you'd probably go after like either a dashing defender or a small forward.
As well. So they've got heaps of these types of players. So yeah, maybe it is a smaller type, maybe it is a running type. I think they're in a
like Ryan, Clark, Cowan, George.
Around the ground, I really like what they've been able to do. They've got strong quality and depth across the field, so they're going to find a good player here, I reckon.
All right, we'll see what they do. They've got about 2 minutes left.
Somewhere in that vicinity.
Melbourne and Sydney as well. As we project ahead, I mean, North Melbourne have already got Harry Sheasel and George Wardlaw. I know, Cal, on the road to the draft, we were getting a lot of questions about what North Melbourne were going to do with when it was pick 23, which is now, I think, what, 26?
Because would they rather a running defender? Would they rather a small forward? I feel like they need a small forward more than a running defender.
Right in their mix as well, I think.
So
small forwards in Charlie Clark, if the Dogs don't take him here.
I got a feeling it'd be Charlie Clark. That's my gut feel.
In the mix for them too. So obviously a little bit depends on what happens next, but yeah, this is an interesting call because I'm not sure the Dogs would have expected Braden George to be available at this point. He's always going to be in that mix, and he's one of the interesting and more fascinating players off the pool in that we know he's not going to be playing in 2023. He did his ACL late in this season. We've had that
before because Elijah Hollins was drafted, wasn't he? Probably not going to play the year after.
No, that's right. And also Brody Kemp as well a couple of years ago. Probably an even more similar story in that he was going to sit out his next season.
All right, well, we'll see what the Western Bulldogs... Just a thought, the pick is in. I was just going to say...
There we go.
Thought that maybe, given they bid on Jasper Fletcher, they might be preparing a bid for Alwyn Davey just to get in front of the Bombers and make them use their pick. But I'm not sure they've done that because they're taking...
There we go. Got it. Charlie Clark.
So the Western
So now Essendon. What do Essendon want?
Well done with that one. He is now...
I think they're done for key forwards.
Great news.
They've got a ruckman.
He's a go-getter, that's for sure. He kicks goals, he gets in the faces.
This is where I could say Lewis Hayes.
The forward line work of Charlie Clark.
Lewis Hayes would probably be their number one would be the number one player in danger.
They're so energetic.
They will. He's really crafty around.
I could see them taking a Housewaite though, because they don't have any tall midfielders. They did pick up Philippou, Tasadas. So if they want another tall mid, they could go after Housewaite. But I feel like, especially with Hurley retiring, they're gonna want a key defender. I feel, and they don't have a lot of height as in their defense. So, God, if I'm Collingwood, I'd probably want to get this pick right now. If I really want Lewis Hayes.
The Bombers are a chance for the Bombers because I think they're a club that should back in the talent and look for someone like that at this selection.
Yeah, if we really want Hayes right now, we got to do a pick with Essendon, I reckon.
Expect them
That's my guess is they're going to get Lewis Hayes.
Use their next pick at 39.
Okay.
I think that'll probably be it for them across the night. Potentially one later, but I think 39 is most likely to see them out.
Yeah, we'll get some passes, no doubt, towards the end. What did you say? 59? 59 selections. All right, one to watch. So the Bombers are currently on the clock. It is night 2 of the 2022 NAB.
Yeah, out of the players we're interested in, Hayes is the more likely, but I would not be surprised if they pick Hustwaite. Because Essendon have too many inside midfielders. And they don't have midfielders with height either. Like Hustwaite would be a really good complement to their midfield if they get Hustwaite.
Eventually trading the pick to Hawthorn. The Swans have got another pick in at 27 there, as you can see on the screen, after North Melbourne. So we wait to see what the Essendon Football Club does. Obviously, we know that Alwyn Davey Jr. will be joining the club at some point, but this won't be the pick that they're using to select him, Riley.
No, and that's a great thing for the Bombers, because I think probably a fortnight ago there might have been some concern that this pick, a bid for Alwyn Davey Jr. might have been made before this pick, and it would have then forced this pick out further in the draft. So the fact they've managed to retain 2 picks at the top end, they got Elijah Sardis in last night, they'll bring another one here, and then we know they're going to bring a really nice prospect in Alwyn Davey Jr. later on in the draft. Is a really good thing for them. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do here. I agree potentially on the Braden George front, in the sense that I think they've needed a quality forward half player.
All Pickett's in.
Now, so I'll be interested to see if they go down.
Got a feeling Hayes is going to be this one.
The pick is in. We'll just wait for that to come up. Do you reckon, Cal, he could play straight away?
Yes. Yeah,
I've got a feeling this is Hayes.
And I think he can play straight away. I don't think that should be the expectation that he comes out of and is Chris Judd next year, but there is some capability for him to play straight away, that's for sure. All
right, so Lewis Hayes, the younger brother of Sam Hayes, Port Adelaide's ruckman, joins the Bombers.
All right, we still got Phillips.
And very
still got Phillips.
99 centimetres, and that is an excellent pickup for the Bombers.
Yeah, and adds to now their key position group, because only 2 years ago they grabbed a couple of key defenders in the draft, and Cody Brand and Josh Eyre. They've both been delisted this year, so they don't have a whole heap of young key backs coming through that system. They might pick up Eyre as a rookie tomorrow again, but yeah, he is a player who will be able to develop alongside Zach Reid potentially within that group. There's high hopes for Zach Reid. Might follow.
Fucking sucks, but yeah, so then you've definitely got a decent player there. It might take a bit of time.
Won't be the expectation straight away, but you know, if you're learning next to Jordan Ridley about being an intercept defender, he was one of the.
Yeah, I mean, I really want Hustwaite, Tom. I really do. I think you know how much I value Hustwaite. And then rumors are saying Richards, and I do believe the rumors are true. But oh god, we gotta get like a Lemmy or a Phillips or someone, surely.
That potentially maybe like a Harrison Jones could take the next step at the other end of the field and become a real consistent 40 or 50 goal kicker a year. They've had Peter Wright come through.
You wouldn't think Hustwaite would go to North.
If we can get Zach Reid and Lewis Hayes,
I'm trying to think.
Years, then we're in a really good position defensively, and you can start looking at other ends of the field without having to worry about what's.
I mean, they do have a lot of insides, and I mean, Hustwaite's probably more that silky outside.
Cal, North Melbourne.
Throw that in there.
I think they have other needs except for midfielders anyway, because I've got a fair few. I've got a pretty good decent midfield, so I think we should be okay.
Is gone now. Who are North Melbourne looking at? Who is left on the list?
Tom McCallum's still there.
I'm worried about Sydney though. Sydney's the scary pick, to be honest. Because they need that Josh Kennedy replacement. Oh man, Hustwaite would be that and some.
Lockie Cowan's still on the board as well. Braden George, as we mentioned. So you'd think it'd probably come out of one of those guys. Although they could come from this one a little bit left field, knowing that, and we have to keep this in mind, that this is essentially North Melbourne's last live pick of the draft.
Yes.
They have a selection later in the pool, which will be used on Cooper Harvey. That's already nominated them as a national draft father-son. So it means that even if no bids come, he will be taken with their last pick. If a bid does come, which I think is unlikely, it's just going to move up and zoom up the board and grab him. So this is their last live pick. So if they want someone a little bit more, not obscure, but off Broadway pick, this is going to be it. And that's okay as well, because you know you're bringing in two as close to roll gold certainties as you can get at pick 2 and 3 in Harry Sheasel and George Wardlaw. So interested to see which way the Roos go here.
Come on.
I think McCallum would be a chance under this scenario. I thought maybe if one of the smalls was still there, they might get taken. Would Ollie Houghton be part of that brigade as well? Don't know. He's probably a similar size to some of the other midfielders that are on their list already, that 182cm midfielder. But yeah, I think that's some of the options available.
On Harry Sheasel, we spoke to him last night on Draft Night Live, night 1 of the draft, and he talked about how chuffed he was to find out that he was, I guess, the theme or the song this year, your draft song, was named after him. Just talk us through while we wait for this pick. How did you come up with She's Will Be Love? What's the artistic inspiration?
There's a few different suggestions, and that one did come through from an avid listener, and we appreciated that. And then within about 10 minutes, I'd put together the lyrics.
10 minutes. So you channeled your best Liam Gallagher.
Well, Noel Gallagher, to be honest, because Supersonic was written in 10 minutes, and that's one of their best songs at Oasis. But anyway.
That was good singing from both of you.
Just compared yourself to Noel Gallagher there.
All right, well, thank goodness that North Melbourne's pick is in, because we don't have to talk about that anymore, but we will show you that song a little bit later on in the show, so make sure you keep watching if you missed it. And here we go. North Melbourne have taken Braden Jordan.
Oh, jeez, that's...
As we said, we haven't seen much of him.
Yeah, that's actually really good by North, actually.
Injuries, and now having a reconstruction, we'll see him miss all of next year. But Cal, this is something that you look at long term, and he certainly has so much talent. Yeah, he's a terrific mark of the footy. He goes in the air. He's strong above the ball. He's tough. He kicks the ball a mile. He knows his way around goals. There's a lot to like about Braden George. The one thing you don't like is that he's got an ACL injury and he's going to miss all the next year. But it's a long-term pick, this one. I like this pick from the Roos. I think that they're in no rush, North Melbourne, and they have time on their side. They've just got a new coach on a 5-year deal. Clearly, they're planning for the future. So he is going to be a part of that. And the talent doesn't disappear or fade just because of this injury that he's dealing with at the moment. He's going pretty well with his recovery. Spoke to him not too long ago about that. And he's tracking quite well and keeping pretty positive about it. So been a frustrating year for him. But probably a long wait overnight as well. A chance to go last night, a chance to go early tonight, but finds his home now, and I think it's a good selection from the Roos. No, it would have been a difficult year for him, but with these things, they always make you a little bit more resilient. That's true, and you learn things from it, and he's taken that approach. He's heard from other ACL victims, I guess you call them, in the AFL ranks that have reached out and spoken to him at different points. So he has got some good support around him throughout dealing with that injury. And he's a really explosive player.
I reckon you looked at North Melbourne's forward stocks pre-trade and draft period, and you might have thought, did they need
Thanks everybody for tuning into the stream. Really appreciate the support. If you guys want to like and subscribe for future content, please do so as we continue through the draft. Sydney's pick is in, so we'll find out what that is real soon. Hopefully it's not Huswaite.
But they're really interesting matchups and hard to match up on players, and you wouldn't want to be an opposition coach in charge of the defensive.
I just hope it's not Huswaite.
All right, well, this is actually the pick that Sydney got as part of that trade with Hawthorn when Hawthorn moved up to pick 18.
I'm leaving my phone alone because I don't want to be spoiled.
As well as a future second and a future third, and they have
yes! All right, come on, let's get Huswaite. Come on, Huswaite, let's go.
This is really interesting in that because they did that deal with Hawthorn. He's a member of the Hawthorn Next Generation Academy. The Hawks would have been hoping that he gets through past pick 40 so they could have access to match the bid. But they can't match the bid under the NGA rules. So he was tied to Hawthorn's academy system. The Swans have got in before the cutoff point. And now he's their player. So
let's go. Yeah, I know, mate. It's absolutely awesome. They've definitely. I mean, I thought the turnout yesterday was amazing. This is even better. Thanks everybody for tuning in too. Really appreciate the support, and if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe for future content. But hopefully we can get Huswaite now. I'm so nervous.
They moved back in the draft, and
Cowan's available. Ryan is still available.
But he'll have development development ahead of him over the next couple of years. It's interesting in the sense that
Huswaite, Lemmy, Phillips, all that. Yeah, plenty of talent available still. I'm hoping Huswaite. Come on, let's do it.
Nick Blakey, who's played a really good role in that position of halfback over the last couple of years. It was an area that we thought Sydney would target coming into the night. They'd been linked to a lot of players who...
Come on, let's go. Let's pick up Huswaite. Oh boy.
It's got that penetration, it's got that drive, and can provide that for the Swans over the next coming years.
2.93 seconds over quick. 20 metres. So genuinely looking at some speed there. And in bringing in he and Jacob Constanti, clearly they've identified that as a bit of a need, the Swans, with their first 2 selections.
Very interesting. So do they have any more selections? I think they've got a couple of later picks. There you go. We see them there, 40 and 62 and 75.
Oh man.
What's the feeling with the Swans? Would they maybe take one? Or
Potentially, Justin. Potentially. So Huswaite is the brother of Gamble Huswaite, who is the co-captain of our VFL side. So I'm just hoping we pick up Huswaite, because I've seen too many interviews and such a good kid.
Yes, they did. Whether or not he's now a player they're looking at here, thinking,
come on, please.
Obviously nabbed Ed Allen, who was a player that was too good to pass up on with their first round pick last night. So whether or not Jacob Ryan is a player that's going to be on the board.
Oh, okay.
Indeed. So Jacob Ryan goes to the Collingwood football and becomes a Magpie. He is a tall, running defender.
It's not a bad pick.
And he did that 2K time trial in about 6 minutes and 15 seconds, and he's going to be a cult figure, as you said, Cal, down at what's it called? What's their sentence?
AIA Centre.
Yeah, there you go.
The AIA Centre. Yeah, average 20 touches for.
Alright, I don't mind the Jacob Ryan pick. I mean, we definitely do need the aggressive defender.
Also be a runner and carry player for them as well. So he is a prospect too.
But yeah, I hope. I just hope we pick up Huswaite with our next pick.
Potentially to start his career, can play on the wing as well.
All right, so
yeah. I mean, Tom, it's a fantastic get. It's just that there's just so many options to choose from. I mean, you can't go wrong with anyone.
And then now Jacob Ryan. So great start for Collingwood in the draft. As we look at West Coast back on the clock, they've had Ruben Ginbey and Elijah Hewitt that they picked up last night. 2 locals, then they went Harry Barnett. I wonder what they're going to do here, Cal. What are your thoughts?
Well, we've thrown up Kobe Bergiel as being an option. He's definitely got
some... Oh, and Tom, you might have a bit of work to do in the chat too, because there's been a few people in the chat spamming some things. So if it's obviously anything that's dodgy, make sure to hide them straight away.
Around this part of the draft, is this the point where the bid comes in for Alwyn Davey Jr.? Yeah. Possibly. It doesn't really matter too much at this point now for the Bombers that they're in a good spot to do what they need to do. So there are some names that I think will be right in the mix for this 4th pick for the Eagles, and they might have a later pick. They might use their later pick. They might also have to match a bid potentially on.
Yeah, Nick, if you're in the chat, just if it's things like that, just hide it instantly.
In the sense that no one's trading out of these picks. No. So the second night of the draft and the early picks in the second night of the draft have traditionally been a point of the draft where clubs have had 24 hours to canvass what the market is for these picks, and a lot of them have been traded in years gone by. But last year we saw a swing from tradition in the sense that Fremantle opted to keep their pick, and then I think North Melbourne was next on the clock and opted to keep their pick, and then I think it went 10 or 12 picks before someone eventually made a trade. The same thing's happening now in the sense that I think we've gone, 6 or 7 picks on the second night of the draft, and everyone's opted to retain their own selection. I think that you can sort of sell yourself on players that are coming through now. So obviously,
I mean, we can still get Huswaite though.
First night of the draft, he's now made it through to
Ed Allen, he's going to be like, I don't know if you saw my Twitter today, but I said if we give this kid 4 years, he will be an All-Australian. Mark my words. That kid can be anything. Genuinely can be anything. He basically is Cripps with an elite athletic background. If that's not exciting, I don't know what is. Like, All-Australian in 4 years. Mark my words.
That there's not enough of a market being generated for the picks at the top of the order. I think a lot of clubs...
Yeah, because I mean, with the defenders, we've basically got, in terms of small defenders, we've got Quainer, Noble, and then you're probably stretching it in terms of like what a small defender is. I mean, you could say Rusco, but I mean Rusco's 193 centimeters.
In the AFL.
Jacob Ryan is definitely someone that has a lot of talent. But also as well, he's a very good mark, and he can create a lot of dash up half back. So yeah, I do have others that I like more, but in terms of getting him, I'm not mad whatsoever.
Operator within your recruiting team, you need to know what you're trading out of next year.
Because there's, I mean, there's still like 10 players at least. Oh, we could get Huswaite if we want him.
AFL Draft have selected Kobe Bergill. Talk to
Oh
me
my
about
God.
where you think his best position is. We know
We can
he's
get
quick
Huswaite.
and he's speedy, that's his best asset, but he can kind of play in a few different positions.
Yeah, I think he's a ball winner through the midfield who can go forward. He's kicked a few goals at stages this year for Gippsland as well, about 15 across this season. So can win about half of his ball in contested situations, and then, as you mentioned, that really quick.
Yeah, we're in the top 30, and Ikela hasn't even remotely been mentioned. Same as like Lemmy and Phillips and all those guys.
In the NAB League, so he can really go, and I think the mix, what we're seeing there is that...
Okay, come on, we need Huswaite.
The Eagles wanted some pace throughout their midfield, and wanted these players to be brought in and add some real dash through that area, and Jimby's quick, Hewitt's quick, Barnett's actually quite quick for a tall player, runs a 3
I
second.
really like what West Coast is doing here.
And Kobe Bergill as well as a player who is able to do that too, so... Yeah, I think the mix they've got is really...
And Nobes is on his way to...
Good selection for them there. And now the Saints are on board.
On his way to maxi style for mine if he continues on his season.
Saints up next as well. Collingwood, at this point, well, is it Ollie Houghton? Is it Isaac?
Oh, mate, no,
where he gets into the mix for...
I could not agree with you anymore. Ever since that Fremantle game this year, I've got nothing but love for that guy. Seriously, like, such a... Like, I know he had a lot of criticisms prior to that Fremantle game of the season just gone, and I did agree with it, but I never wanted to jump on the bandwagon to, like, you know, abuse him for it. But my God, like, ever since that Fremantle game, if you're gonna give him any crap after the Fremantle game, I highly disagree, because he's one of our best players. I've even said too, don't know if you've ever listened to these comments before, but I would say that if, like, I put him on par with Adam Sard, and if Adam Sard was an All-Australian this year, I don't see why John Noble would have been an All-Australian this year. I know that there was probably like things that happened and blah blah and things like that, but I didn't think Adam Sard deserved his All-Australian, and to be honest, I thought Noble had a better year, personally, but because he's such an underrated figure, no one's going to look for him, so no one's going to give him the praise that he deserves. But my God, Noble was such a good player. Or trade. Okay, so a trade for Carlton. There we go.
As we see, it's actually been a trade. So Collingwood and Carlton have made a trade there. Pick 30 to move.
So Carlton has traded its future second-round pick to Collingwood for pick 30.
Okay.
So and the Blues... Collingwood's tapped out.
Okay.
So the Blues had radar back when we spoke to Nick Austin, their list manager.
Okay, so we're not going after Huswaite at all.
Cal that said they were looking to get another pick inside the top 30. They've obviously got 32 as well. They took Ollie Hollands last night. So this has been something that's been on their agenda for quite some time, and they wanted another pick in and around this range.
Yeah, they did, absolutely. And now that gives them a shot at a couple of players in succession nearly. So Jackson Binns, I think, would be in that mix. Ollie Houghton could be in the mix as well, potentially.
Is this a trade for a trade potentially?
So there's
this makes no sense.
From a running point of view, could be contenders.
So they've clearly got their eye on someone then.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think Jackson Binns is one to watch here. I'm intrigued to see what they go there. Do you think Collingwood will try and get back into the draft, Cal, or do you think that'll be them done?
I think they've got a later pick as well that they can activate.
In the 50s, I think.
I don't know if they will come back in though at this point.
Okay.
I think they've been really open, as Derek Hines spoke about on our Draft Night Countdown show earlier this week, in potentially moving out and just having...
I mean, we don't have a second round pick for next year, so...
They're able to sort of move around there as well, so... I'm not sure if they will participate.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, if Colin finished,
pick in the 50s as well.
Hey, Okay, well, if that's it for Collingwood, then Ed Allen and Jacob Ryan, that's a pretty good selections.
Not a bad, not a bad one too.
Yeah.
It's
Alright,
basically
so
just pick 30
is,
for
and we
pick
just wait
30.
to see what is happening here, as you say, Cal. There
Unless
are
I'm missing
quality
something.
players left on this list, and as we wait to see what the Blues.
Oh, don't
do.
pick
So
up
just
Hustley.
recapping, if you've
Don't do it
joined
to
us,
me.
They've traded up into the Pies pick.
Okay, they
30.
got
They've traded
Cowan.
a future second, and they've taken the Tasmanian, the teen from Devonport, in Lockie Cowan, which is great news, because I was going to ask you next, Cal, like, are you surprised that he hasn't been picked up yet in the top 30? But here we go.
Well, clearly the Blues were surprised that he wasn't picked up yet, because they've moved up knowing that if you go up, he's the player you're going to get, because you don't go up with any doubt.
No.
That's why clubs wait before they really make that decision to trade up for any benefit in case.
Yeah, we still have pick 51 though, so we definitely have a pick left, so we'll definitely get a third player, but that's very strange. Like, I mean, I guess it's not that we lost on the trade, but like we definitely, I don't think we've won the trade either. So I mean, maybe they're assuming that Richards is going to be there at 51.
I think they've got a lot of running defenders. Sam Doherty.
But a lot of clubs are circling around the mid-30s for him. So.
But then I just remember we spoke to Carlton coach Michael Voss on Draft Night Countdown on Friday, and he hinted with the fact that he really likes.
Unless Harry Lemmy is going to be available at 51.
Towards the back end of last year, so I wonder if this is done with that in mind, that they see the next phase of Sam Doherty's career.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's Harry Lemmy.
Midfielder, and that's why they've targeted another running defender here. They're now 2 from 2.
I remember someone did a top 60 or top 55, and he didn't even have Lemmy in it. So maybe this is us actively. If that's what the trade is, and we're picking Lemmy up with pick 51. I wouldn't necessarily say it's genius, but I mean it's it would be a move that would be positive. Because you're not losing out on the second round.
Well, I think they still need more.
You still get that pick, you just get it for next year.
The Filippo addition in the sense that he gives their midfield a bit of a point of difference. I mean, they've got some bigger body ball winners that we spoke about last night, and Brad Crouch.
Interesting. I'm not too sure about that.
Seb Ross, who had a really good season. I think they need a bit more X factor through that midfield. Mateus Filippo will obviously give them that, so that's something they can go forward and take on board as well. But that and forward half quality, I think that when they have to rely on Jade Gresham to go into the midfield, they lose that little bit of X factor in their 50-metre arc. So yeah, I think they're the two main needs for the Saints.
There's a few who could be in the mix here. James Van Ness is a key back, is a possibility. I think they've shown some interest there. In him around this point of the draft.
James Van Ness was another one that also traded really well. Sorry, not traded. Combined really well. His combine testing was really good. His running vertical leap and standing vertical leap. Jesus Christ, if I can speak English. Was I think the best overall this year. So.
Obviously taking and snagging.
That's definitely something. So.
Vickery at pick 27. So Lockie Cowan is now a Blue at pick 30. We enter pick 30.
I reckon that's probably the plan, Tom. I reckon we're going after either Lemmy or Phillips, and we'll just because when it gets to 51, we're just gonna pick whoever's left, either Lemmy, Phillips, or even Scully. That's my guess in what we'll do.
This season too. He's got one of the better highlights packages as well. So we wait and see which angle they take on this pick, because they do have this hold of this part of the draft.
Already.
In a way, they've got these two selections. They've been another club that has been looking to see if they could somehow package up their selections or bring a suite of picks together and get an extra pick inside that top 25 or so. That didn't happen. But now they're on the board here, and maybe they're happy enough with the players that they saw getting through anyway. And we should mention, Fremantle fans have been oh so very patient, because they've had to wait through all of night one, and what are we at 7:47? Probably about an hour or so into night two, and they still haven't made a selection. But don't worry, Freo fans, coming at pick 33 and a couple of picks, you will have your first player
of the draft, unless, of course, you trade that pick. The pick is in, of course, from St Kilda.
Oh, there you go. James Van Ness is gone.
James Van Ness is their selection.
Yeah, as we thought, he was going to be in the mix. He's a player who they've definitely looked at recent times as a
very good key defender.
He can do some really exciting things as well. He's a good mark above his head. He's played some strong footy this season for Vic Country and the Greater Western Victoria Rebels too. So, yeah, certainly a prospect who can leap in the air and shut down opponents too. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to sort of grow and develop with James Van Ness, and he was a player who also had a fair bit of interest in this area of the draft as well. I think there's a few clubs behind this pick that were looking at him closely, and he could have been in the mix for Hawthorn with one of their later picks. If Port Adelaide still was there with their selection, what they would have done, I think he would have been well and truly in that conversation too.
They brought in Zane Cordy, obviously, throughout the trade period as a free agent, as a key defensive option for them. They've got Josh Battle, Dougal Howard and Callum Wilkie. Carlton back on the board here now with their second pick in 3. I reckon this will be the one for Jackson Binns, Cal. They've targeted runners throughout this trade and draft period. They've obviously already brought in Ollie Hollands, who's one of the best. So I think Jackson Binns will be a player to be right in their sights here.
Okay, we'll see what Carlton do. Obviously, they've had a couple of picks in a row. 2 lifelong Carlton fans becoming Blues in Oliver Hollands and Lockie Cowan, which is great news. Are there any more Carlton supporting draft hopefuls on the list there, Riley?
They'd be getting their hopes up right now, I reckon, if they were.
It should be part of the draft information sheet when you lodge your nomination. Your date of birth, your team you barrack for, just in case, down the track.
Now, when I did mention Fremantle as well not having a pick, we also haven't seen Port Adelaide make a selection
or Richmond
either, Richmond. So there's a few fans. Richmond, they're going to have to wait a very long time.
Yeah, Matt Clark and Blair Hartley and Will Thurston.
Oh yeah, but no, we definitely have
still at the moment. They don't have any picks that they can really trade either, given they
reckon we use any more picks. Yeah, we'll definitely get 3 players. It's just a matter of who we get. We'll probably go after a key position. I feel like we'll go after a key defender or a key forward or someone that does both. So you've still got you still got Lemmy on the board. You've still got Phillips on the board, and who was the other one?
Oh man, this is going to be a long.
Keeler and Scully. You've also got on the board too. So.
Yes, I mean the Bombers must be absolutely laughing. Who are you predicting is going to make a bid?
Eventually someone...
When Sydney up next.
Yeah, that's true. I'm having a look here. Oh, no, they're not for a while, 40.
Eventually somebody's going to just say, well, he's just too good. We might not have done as much work on him. And that's what happens with these father-sons. And we saw it with the Saints boys last year, Marcus Windhager and Machito Owens as well. They slipped through a little bit just because of that reason.
Oh, now picks are going up, probably because of the betting and stuff. So we've got pick 47 now instead of 51. So that's good.
To come up.
Oh, and then the trades too. If there's like multiple picks, that probably helps as well.
Here we go. It is. So one of the hardest runners.
Jeez, that's another good pickup.
Finally becomes a Blue. Well done to you.
Well, it's something that Carlton's targeted, as we've mentioned, for about the last 2 or 3 trade periods. I think they came to a point in their list where they realised they needed 2-way runners throughout the midfield. It was certainly a point of emphasis for them last year when they brought in George Hewitt and Adam Chera into their football club, and it's been a point of emphasis for them this year as well when they brought in Ollie Hollands with their first pick, and of course Jackson Binns here now with pick 32 as well. And let's not forget, they also targeted a move for Jack Graham a couple of years ago, though unsuccessful in that pursuit, but another one who's got extreme running power. So it's an area of their midfield group that you sort of almost need if you've got a player like Patrick Cripps, who's such a great contested and clearance ball winner, but has been long working on the spreading part of his game. So these are the types of players that enable Patrick Cripps to do what he does best and become the player that he was in 2022 when he won the Brownlow medal.
And he's got that great mix of agility as well. He was second in the agility at the combine, third in the
is Richards want to lose grandsons and speak?
All day and then weave through traffic as well. It's a fair start.
I don't believe so. I might need to look into that actually, but I don't believe so.
Picked outside of the top 30 since 2004.
Wow.
To start their first selection.
But yeah, so our next pick is 47, so we'll definitely pick someone up with that pick. But as it stands right now, Lemmy, Phillips, Scully, and Keeler still available. Richards is still available.
Of what he's been able to do across this year. still on the board at that pick. They've also spoken about...
There's a ruckman called Clay Tucker that's still available. Apparently, we had interest. And then there was a guy called Bain and Lowe who we had interest in as well, but I haven't heard much on that guy in a while, but we did have interest about it 2 months ago.
For the local, which is great news for him. Just tell us a little more about Hugh Davies.
Yeah, 196 centimetre player and played some good footy this year for WA and for Claremont as well. Pretty mobile when he gets around the ground. He can stop, but he can also back himself in the air and uses the ball pretty comfortably out of defence as well. So they get a local prospect. Didn't test at the combine due to some injury there, but what we have seen across this year, we've seen enough, I think, to know what he does well, and clearly Fremantle really prioritised that as a position.
And they lost Griffin Logue, of course, throughout the trade period, who went to North Melbourne, who was able to only play 4 defenders.
But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else.
Compliment players like Luke Ryan.
I mean, I'm sure there's others, but yeah, Clay Tucker is a ruckman.
Is it just me, or are there a lot of key defenders?
Maybe similar to like a, I don't know. I mean, this is a very loose comparison, but maybe like a Beg, I guess. You know, a ruckman you would expect to pick 51, I guess.
When it gets close to the draft, it's like, oh, these guys become hot property in the second round of the draft. Can you get paid in the second round of the draft? Because the first round is those midfielders who dominated through their draft.
Yeah, so with Ed Allen, the reason why he bolted up the list so much was because of the combine. So the combine, if you don't like, just so that I can do this with everybody, the combine is a place where AFL players that are going to go into the draft, it's where they go to basically get tested to test how quick they are, how fast they run, their endurance, like, you know, how high they jump, a whole bunch of tests. So Ed Allen went into that, and prior to that, not many people knew him. And then when he did it, he was the quickest overall in over a 20-meter sprint. And his endurance over a 2K time trial was like, I think he was like in the top 5 overall. And it's really rare you get people that are quick off the mark but also have the endurance. So from a testing point of view, and that's why we keep saying he's an athlete. From a athletic point of view, he charted extremely high, and the fact that he's 194 centimeters is a massive bonus, because you never get guys. I mean, you don't get players, period, that are going to have a good sprint and then good endurance. You're normally going to have either. But the fact that Ed Allen not only was 194 centimeters, but was elite in both, it just shows like how good of a pick he is. It's kind of like Blitzarves, pretty much, in the sense of how much of an athletic beast he is, I guess, in a sense, if that comes across right. But yeah, if you're not excited about Ed Allen, definitely be, because that kid's going to be a beast. And yeah, with the Joe Richards and Lou Richards, I'm not entirely sure. I need to look that up. I'll say no for now, but I could be wrong.
Could he play in the midfield? Like, is he the type of player who starts as a small forward and then maybe...
Potentially, yeah. I think just the bits and pieces from his athleticism would suggest that he's got the running capacity to do that.
Yeah, and I think their last 3 picks are 3 players who have got a little bit of versatility. Because I think Darcy Jones is a player that I think can play midfield minutes throughout his entire AFL career. Max Grzycki is another one that can play at either end of the field. Now, obviously, with Toby McMullen, they've got some flexibility and some versatility with these last 3 picks. Having taken
the trades in.
Who they knew they were going to get.
Oh, are we coming back in?
Started with their first 2 selections.
Okay, now I think there is a trade that has just come in. So the Adelaide Crows have traded pick 79 and a future 2nd and 3rd round selection to the Gold Coast Suns for pick 43 and a future 2nd and 3rd round selection.
Is that to get Keeler?
Adelaide had been a club having matched the bid for Max Michelini that had looked to try and get back into this year's draft, and they now do with pick 43.
Yeah, so 43 the Adelaide Crows have, and yeah, as we mentioned, Max Michelini is who they took that father-son. Obviously, his dad, Jim, played 211 games with Norwood in the SANFL, which meant he was eligible to go to the Adelaide Crows. So that's what the Adelaide Crows have done so far. As we wait,
that's interesting.
We've got 2.5 minutes left on the clock here already tonight. They've done a little bit of work. They took a key defender in James Van Ness. Last night, they took Matthias Filippo with their first pick in the draft, which was pick 10. So they've got a couple of very handy selections there, and we spoke, Riley, too, about their need for a bit of X factor, which we think Mateus will provide in the midfield. And now they've got a third pick. What are we thinking?
I still think we spoke about it before. Obviously, they got the key defender with their second pick, having taken Mateus Filippo with their top 10 selection. They probably do need a bit of forward half quality, I think, at some point throughout the night. It's something that they've targeted for a long period of time, just to provide that little bit of support for the likes of Jade Gresham, who is able to play through the midfield, through the forward line. Jack Higgins has done that at certain points as well, but had a bit of inconsistency throughout the year, dropped out of the side on occasion throughout the season in 2022. So I think they need another player that's able to provide a little bit of excitement in the forward half for them.
All right, the pick is in as we take a look at what
So who they're picking up?
have done here with their third selection in the draft.
Oh, Houghton.
Ollie Houghton. So a
There you go.
midfielder with the Sandy Dragons, and I think he was left out of the Vic Metro program initially, Cal, but once he came back in, he sort of made some waves, and in particular the NAB League Grand Final, he had 25 touches and a kick to goal.
Yeah, he was terrific in that game and one of the best on ground in that performance for the Sandringham Dragons. Been pretty dynamic across this year as well, and for Vic Metro too. Kicked a few goals in this game down at Geelong against South Australia that really pushed him into the second round mix. And I don't know, some clubs actually had him sort of viewed around that top 20 mark as well within their own boards. So there's certainly an interest in him around that point of the draft. I think this is a good pick for the Saints.
Yeah.
They like their local boys as well. Down the road in Sandringham, obviously not eligible for father-son, the son of Trent Houghton, the former Blue and Magpies players. I didn't play enough games there, but a very different player to his dad, who's a tall type, rather than Ollie, who's 182cm midfielder. Matthew Lloyd at Haileybury College speaks very highly of Ollie's footy this year, and he's a consistent player who basically just turns up and plays. He's athletic, he's driven, 2.92 seconds over the 20-metre sprint as well.
And he is that player that we spoke about, that player that can provide a bit of X factor in the forward line. We spoke about it before, we were previewing where he would go, that he's got that natural athleticism. He can leap, he can jump, he can kick exciting goals, he can win his own footy. So he is that player in the forward.
Are the Pies having another pick? Yes, so our next pick is 47. So yeah, so we'll see how that goes. There's definitely plenty of key position players left, so we could probably do that.
Tom McCullum. So I think he's a really good chance to be in the mix there as a key defender. And look, they've been looking for key defenders around that point of the draft. And this would be a good choice because he's got that agility. He plays in that Port brand in terms of that attacking, athletic style of play as well in what he can do offensively and be that rebounder. So I think that would be a good choice if they go that way.
They've long needed a bit of key defensive depth, and you mentioned that they've tried to get it throughout the trade period, but they don't have much beyond Tom Jonas and Tom Cleary and Alir and Trent McKenzie down there. So if it was to go that way, then I think this would be a smart choice for them.
All right, the pick is in, so we wait to see what they have done. Have they done as Cal has predicted?
Oh, here we go. We've got someone claiming a lock.
The first 13 pretty much spot on, and they have
Oh, here we go. Apparently Joe Richards is a lock at 47.
from the Tassie Devils in
You heard it here first.
and we thought maybe he might be a surprise selection for North Melbourne. They went in a different direction, but he is super athletic.
Yeah, definitely in the mix for a few clubs from that North Melbourne point onwards, and a number of clubs. Another key defender drafted in this part of the period. So yeah, we see some of his run and go, and that's what he does like to do. He's got really good athleticism that allows him to play on a number of different opponents, can be the tall or the smaller types, and really is up for the task and has that courage as well when he's going back with the flight of the ball to stop and intercept. So yeah, there's a lot to like about him, and I think there's a fair bit of development left in him as well.
Good pick from Port Adelaide. They waited this long to get into the draft, given they've had a very good trade period where they brought in a player called Jason Horne-Francis, who we know about from years gone by in the draft.
We spoke about him a lot.
Yeah, but they have addressed a key need here. We would have highlighted it going into this period, this player movement window, where
Could Keeler be available? Hope so.
Pick 36.
Well, we just had a trade yesterday, and Adelaide just traded in for another pick. I think they got 43 from memory. So, Keeler was a part of the NGA, NGA Academy. So, they did say that they had no interest about a month ago, but there's been rumours that they've changed that stance in the last week or two. So,
18. So a little bit of...
If they have interest, then they'll probably pick Keeler up with their pick 43.
The Hawks recruiting team have done here, and they've taken Henry Hustwaite, Cal. And,
Oh, you're kidding me.
His brother is the co-captain of Collingwood's VFL side.
Yeah, and been through the system with the Dandenong Stingrays in recent years as well. Has Henry Hustwaite. Look, he's grown. He's a bit of a late developer in that he's a taller midfield type, uses the footy well on his left side. Probably more of a traditional type of Hawthorn pick over the years. One of these skillful users. Got a bit of that Jack Scrimshaw ability on the left side there. So
Love a left footer.
had about a 15-centimetre growth spurt. So still took those traits that he had as a smaller type when he had to rely on his kicking instantly. And can play potentially on a wing or half back as well and be a driver and deliver.
At least Hustwaite's gone.
I do wonder if he's a different player to Cooper Vickery, but you know, they didn't get Cooper Vickery. Wonder if they had that sort of targeted as a bit of a need in terms of that sweeping type of player, so he could potentially play that type of role.
It's interesting.
I mean, all I can say with that is Hawthorn's picked up a fantastic kid. So
on ballers and bigger midfielders.
They don't have.
It was a point of difference for them yesterday when they took, or last night when they took Cam McKenzie with the first round selection. Now to get back into the draft and take Henry Hustwaite here, whether or not if they see him being an on-baller throughout his career, whether or not they thought to themselves, right, we need a bit of size, we need to be bulked up in this midfield group, and then the two players.
don't be surprised if Melbourne picks up Keeler here, actually.
What the D's have done. This is actually the last pick of round 2, and then we'll be moving on to round 3 and so on and so forth.
Don't be surprised if this is Keeler.
Is with the Demons. They took Matt Jefferson last night.
Okay,
and
Jed
they've
Adams.
gone for a West Australian from Peel Thunder in.
Oh yeah. No, he's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The clubs are clearly loaded up on this part of the draft for key defenders, and they took about 2 seconds to lock that one in, so they're probably riding that one through to this selection, the Demons. So he can mark really well, Jed Adams, 196 centimetres. So again, they pick for the future in terms of their key position players. They had to have some interest and were really aggressive with their future picks and what they.
Yeah, I don't know if he's super tall though, but his read of the play was very good. Like he can read the play extremely well.
A good couple of key defenders in Jake Lever and Stephen May.
And also Harrison Petty, who's played a role for them down there. They've got a fair bit of depth in this area as well, because obviously Adam Tomlinson's still at the football club, who had a really good start to the 2021 season before he did his ACL and struggled a little bit upon return in 2022. So they've got a lot of depth in this area. But as we've spoken about with Melbourne a lot of the time, because they're so well stocked in every area of the field at the moment across all 3 lines, they don't necessarily need players for the now. And we've seen that with the players they've drafted over the last couple of years, where Jacob Van Rooyen, their first round pick last year, probably could have played some senior footy in 2021, but didn't, in the sense that they wanted to be patient with him. Bailey Laurie, who was a first round pick the year before that, is another one that's still waiting for his chance, having dealt with some injury issues in his first season, and then had a really good year of footy in the VFL in 2022 as well. So a couple of players there they've been patient with, and probably Jed Adams is another one they'll be patient with over the next couple of years.
And I think that's probably the end of Melbourne's night as well. So these are 2 picks, and that'll see them done.
Because I think 73 and 78, they're not going to be using those ones. And that is round 2 of the draft done. But we're not done, because there's a couple more rounds still to go. We're predicting about, 59 players to go tonight, according to Cal Toomey, specifically 59. So let's recap what has happened so far on night 2 of the 2022 NAB AFL Draft. And it all started with the Giants. They held the first pick of night 2, and as you see there, they took Max Grzuski, who can play at either end of the ground. So another versatile player to follow on from Darcy Jones, who they took, albeit a little bit smaller.
Let's look at
Darcy Jones.
Let's look at some of the key defenders here. So Max Grzuski is obviously a swingman at both ends of the ground. Lewis Hayes joins the Bombers' key defender. Jacob Ryan is a floating defender, but tall enough to play on some top types there as well. James Van Ness being another one. Before we turn over the slide, though, Cooper Vickery, big story as well, because he's an interesting one. The Swans, they bid twice on players last night. This time they just went out and took one, and a next generation academy player who was tied to Hawthorn. They had access to him past the pick 40 mark under rules.
And they took him with the pick that Hawthorn had traded them.
Correct. So it's very interesting on that front. Then Fremantle entered the chat. Hugh Davies
added to the WhatsApp group.
Hugh Davies was added as a key defender as well, and then Jed Adams as well into that mix too, and Tom McCullum as well. So clearly there was the defensive street of the draft.
Just on Cooper Vickery, we know that Sydney are obviously rivals with GWS, local rivals. They matched a bit on Harry Rouston, and they matched a bit on Max Michelini, which was the pick that they got Jordan Dawson with. I wonder if the memory stretches as far back as 2020 when Hawthorn made them match the bid on Braden Campbell with the top 5 pick. And I wonder if that's what we're getting back there now. Recruiters have long memories.
They do, but you've got to make these clubs pay for top echelon draft picks, even if they are in the academy. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, so apparently there's some people out there with some very good mail that Joe Richards will be our pick 47. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at it, to be honest, but I would like a genuine key defender though in Phillips, or at least Lemmy. Like, just give me a genuine key forward or key defender.
Let's move on, because the third round is going to start very shortly, and it's the Western Bulldogs who will be on the clock very soon. They've got pick 39 to kick things off in the third round of the draft, and when we take a look at what the Western Bulldogs have already done, they've got a key defender in Jed Buslinger from WA, and then also Charlie Clark, a half forward. So, Riley, what else might the Bulldogs need? I mean, they've got a pretty good list already.
Yeah, they've got a very good list. And they had a really strong trade period we know about, with bringing Rory Lobb in to provide key forward support, bringing Liam Jones in to provide key defensive support. They obviously bolstered their list with another key defender last night, Jed Buslinger. So I don't think there's any pressing needs for them now. I still think they can go out and target the best player on their draft board with this first pick of the third round of the draft.
All right, so Cal, we've got the recruiters. I imagine they would be in a room with like a whiteboard, or maybe like, if they're like me, post-it notes coloured, coordinated or something like that. I feel like that could be a thing and a vibe. Who is left on these lists, these whiteboards, these post-it notes?
They might be a little bit more sophisticated than that.
An Excel spreadsheet?
Some Excel spreadsheets and different systems. Each to their own. Some are visual learners, some are, you know.
No, that's true. I'm all about the home edit, if you've ever seen that on Netflix, and colour coordination. So continue.
I'm aware of that one.
It's not on my list.
Look, they have some options who are still there. The other one, they could make the bid here on Alan Davey Jr.
Yes.
Speaking of long memories, is there any? 2 years ago, Josh Dunkley was nearly prized out of the Western Bulldogs by the Bombers.
This would be a good storyline.
That'd be funny. That'd continue the sort of spite night element of
Love it.
of draft. But look, James Gallagher's a player who, Harvey Gallagher. James Gallagher's the list. Harvey Gallagher's a player who I really like around this part of the draft. A small back who can play a number of different positions. Really got his season rolling in the second half of the year. Isaac Keeler's still on the board. I don't think they'd probably look there in terms of their options. Sam Gilby's an athletic player who missed a lot of footy across this season. Noah Long, Caleb Smith's got some real toe.
In fact, I'll just see, because I know there's been some trades.
Line as well. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting which way they go, the Bulldogs.
Do you think there's going to be a trend? We just had the key defenders that dominate round 2. Could there be a trend that emerges in round 3?
There could be.
Oh, we'll just have to wait and How insightful. Thank you. That's why everyone watches AFL.com.au and the AFL Live.
I think this is a tough part of the draft, because there's going to be a lot of players who are trying to squeeze into these last 20 or so selections. And I think there's going to be some players who also miss out, who we really think would have been good enough to feature at that point as well. So
here we go.
That is going to be fascinating, I think, as...
the pick is in for Bulldogs. Here we go. Okay, I got the live. Okay, it's still 47. Yep. Just saying, Kilda pick Isaac Keeler at 45. Oh god, I mean, I thought he was gonna go inside 30 for the majority of the year. I think Keeler's a fantastic talent. And I mean, as a St Kilda fan, I mean, he's very much like Paddy Ryder. So, I mean, yeah, if he's available at 45, I'd definitely take him, but it's just a matter of how it plays out, I guess. Yeah, he's kind of with Keeler, he's a mix between, so he does the Paddy Ryder ruck, but then also he's probably like a Joe Danaher as a forward. So he does both, but that's sort of like the way I would describe him. Imagine him being like a Paddy Ryder as a ruckman combined with a Joe
13 goals, 13.
I know her as a forward, so if you guys picked him up,
While the Sydney Swans
yeah, if you guys picked him up, especially at pick 45, that would be an absolute bargain. Like that kid is really good.
at Marvel
So
Stadium, and you have the Giants national recruiting manager in Adrian Caruso with you.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, no, the support's been awesome. Actually, speaking of, thanks everybody for watching the stream at the moment. Don't also forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. But with that said, yeah, we'll obviously continue watching the stream and the draft. But yeah, no, I reckon it's been a pretty good draft overall. What do you think of Ollie Houghton going to St Kilda? Again, great pick. Like, fantastic talent. Sort of trying to think. He's just one of those like impact players. Like, you know, he's sort of like he doesn't need 30 disposals, 25 disposals every game. You know, he could have his 15. You know, 15 disposals, maybe high teens, and he can still have an impact just as much as, say, someone who gets 30. Probably will play a bit, a little bit on the wing, maybe a little bit like, maybe a bit of half forward. But no, I reckon he'd be a great pickup. Kind of, trying to think of St Kilda player that'd be equivalent. Maybe like a Billings. Kinda, if Billings was a wingman sort of like half forward type. Trying to think of like who that would be. Yeah, Billings is sort of coming to mind. Like that's sort of roughly what he's probably equivalent of. Well, that's the type of player he'd probably try and be.
Everyone knows what sort of happened. You know, it got to the point where, the Swans said they were gonna make a bid. They tried to get us to do some deals to. Potentially get in above that bid, and our plan heading in was if the bid came in before any of our picks, we just use the next pick to absorb it and move on and use our next two selections that were there. So ultimately that's how it played out, and it didn't affect our overall strategy, which was to bring in 5 players, of which Harry was always going to be one of them.
Tell us about today then.
I don't think if I've missed anyone.
A level of interest in your first pick tonight.
I think I've answered all the questions. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Yeah, thanks so much for the support that you guys have given. It's been absolutely amazing. Like I thought, I was shocked and amazed how awesome day one was, and I mean this has just blown it out of the water, to be honest.
Differently last night, there was probably going to be maybe more of an appetite to move it, but once we sort of let the dust settle today, we did have a couple of clubs who were showing interest and made strong offers. But once we'd done all the work to, I suppose, make the call that Max was the one that we wanted, we felt if we were to trade into the future or move back, there was just too much uncertainty. We feel like we wanted Max, we identified him, he was the one we wanted. Why put ourselves in that boat of maybe missing out on him and putting the uncertainty on where a future pick might land? We already do have an additional future first round draft pick, and our strategy tonight was, to bring in the 2 best players available at our picks. So ultimately that's what we did.
Tell us a bit about Max and where you see him playing positionally. He's done it at either ends at junior level, but when he gets to the Giants next year, where do you see his magnet being put?
So Freya's got the next pick. Thoughts on the Hawks pickups? Seth Campbell. Not too familiar. Is that Seth Campbell? Is he the one from Tasmania? I definitely know you guys have got an absolute steal with Henry Huswaite. He's being a Collingwood supporter. His brother is co-captains in our VFL side, and I mean even Campbell, who's the brother, is a pretty good footballer in his own right. But Henry, my God, Henry's going to be a very good player. Might take about 2 years to probably get going. But once he puts on a bit of size, I mean, he's 195 centimeters and he's going to be playing in the midfield. So probably maybe even off half back a little bit too. So sort of a defensive midfielder, I would say. So sort of that midfield, yet probably plays a bit of defense. But no, that's. I was hoping that we'd pick him up at 28 and 30, and the fact he slid to I think 37. Yeah, no, you guys got an absolute steal there. Do you think there could be a top 10 bust? Top 10.
To bring in the player that we rated as the best small forward, and going through that process we felt Darcy was. He might not be the best small forward right now, given that he's played a lot as a midfielder, but we're projecting forward.
Top 10 bust.
And we feel like Darcy, he has the attributes to play the way
If it's just straight top 10 at the, as I'm saying it right now.
Did it a little bit at league level, late in the year for Swan Districts, and we think that based off what we've seen.
I mean, all of them are pretty good. I'd probably say Jai Clark. If I had to pick one, I reckon Jai Clark's going to be the one that might sort of not be as good as what we think. But in saying that, all of them are going to be fantastic players. Yeah, I mean, I rate every single one of them. I just think that maybe with Jai Clark, potentially he could sort of maybe fall under the pressure because a lot of media trying to put the whole, Joel Selwood clone on him. So if he sort of struggles with that pressure, maybe that's how it happens. But the top 10's pretty solid, I reckon.
Yeah, Caleb Mitchell, really good story as well. Comes out of the Murray Bushrangers program.
Because I really rate Mackenzie. I think Mackenzie's severely underrated. Tasadis is another one I really like. Shees was going to be great, high impact. I mean, Ashcroft is just going to be another Nick Dacos. Cadman's going to take some time. But in saying that, when he gets going, he'll be very good. He'll just be another probably not to the level of Cameron, but he'll be trying to go in that direction, if that makes any sense. But he'll still be a great player.
I reckon Sydney's midfield group and their wing depth is among the best in the competition, so this is another player.
Humphrey, I'm really, really liking. He's that sort of Dustin Martin sort of, Jordan De Goey, Christian Petrarca sort of type. Will Philippou play round 1? Let me put it this way. Philippou would play if you guys were playing next week. That's how good he is.
Yeah, and as we said before, 7 centimetres and getting bigger. So
Philippou is
he's a really good tap ruckman. He's worked a lot.
He's so
under the work and help and guidance.
And this is the thing too. Like I've seen him in interviews, and I've seen a lot of media claim how he's a bit arrogant and a bit sort of I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but he's very strong with his opinions of himself and very strong with his takes. I don't have an issue with it. If you can talk that and you can back it up, I've got no issues with it. A lot of the NBA players over in America, if you watch NBA, they talk very similar to what he does. But the thing is that with the Australian media and just Australians overall, we don't embrace when someone is pumping up their own tires. I believe it's within our culture. We don't get around someone that likes to pump themselves up, even though they back it up. And yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be a fantastic player. I mean, he says he reckons he would be worthy of pick 1. I can see it. I genuinely can see it. And at the end of the day, it's just a matter of, obviously he's said these statements, and now he has to make sure he backs up the statements, because at the end of the day, that's really all you can do. So, I'm absolutely really excited to see what he can do, especially considering the fact that he has that confidence. It's going to be really interesting to see how he gets treated throughout his career, because a lot of people claim he's arrogant. He's not arrogant at all. I can guarantee you he's not arrogant. He's very confident, and he knows what he wants, and he knows what he wants to get, which will be fantastic for St Kilda, because that's something they just don't have from a personality point of view. But yeah, if he wants to be a one club player and he wants to change St Kilda around, why not? Give it at the end of the day, all you can do is just put your best foot forward at the end of the day. And if he's going to be that player, all the best to him, to be honest. All the best to him. Oh, there you go. So Adelaide didn't even go for Keeler anyway.
done too much more. A bit of
Unless
bigger size as well to add to their group.
you went a bit early because I haven't seen the last few picks.
Clubs who were looking at him as a potential pickup in the 50s.
Oh, Max Noble got picked up by Fremantle. That's interesting.
They've jumped in to grab him. Another
there you go.
Prospect, as we mentioned, 6 minutes and 20.
But yeah, as you were saying before with the Hawthorn picks, yeah, I'm absolutely spewing Hawks. Hawks got Huswaite, and we didn't. Kobe Burial, I think he's the small forward. He's got a bit of talent. Oh no, sorry, that's West Coast. Sorry, my bad. Josh Weddle. Josh Weddle's going to be a very good player. They say he's a key defender, but I think he's just a utility. You just put him anywhere and he just works. And then Cameron McKenzie, like Cameron McKenzie probably doesn't get enough credit, to be honest. He's a seriously good player, that kid. In fact, I'd even go out of my way to say that the reason why the reason why, and I'm trying to think of the Brisbane, Ashcroft. The reason why Ashcroft and that whole entire midfield works and gels as well as it does is because of McKenzie. You know, you don't get the... I mean, I'm sure with... I keep forgetting his name. Because of Ashcroft, he probably finds a way to make it work anyway. But it's someone like... For every Dustin Martin, you need a Cochin. For every... trying to think of... You know, for every exciting, explosive mid, you need that inside mid to like dish it out to make that outside explosive mid look good. Kind of like a Taylor Adams or a Jordan DeGoey, or you know, the credit will never go to the person that wins the ball, dishes it out. The credit always goes to the person on the outside that receives the ball. So yeah. So in saying that, oh there you go, St Kilda just picked up Keeler. That is a very good pick. Very good pick. But no, Mackenzie's super underrated. And you know, and it's just by the way he plays. He plays that selfless game that always goes unnoticed. But that means that someone like Hawthorn, you know, gets extremely good value. So, yeah, I mean that's just sometimes it just plays out like that, unfortunately. Hawks need these young guns because we are rebuilding majorly. Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, especially with yeah, as I say, going through all these picks, I mean, you guys have done extremely well. As I say, with Weddle can easily go in the midfield too. He can play on the wing. He can play key defense. Probably not like a key defense in the sense where he's going to take on, say, like a Tom Hawkins. But you know, he could be like a third key tall or maybe even a second key tall if needed. But then on top of it too, yeah, he can go on the wing, he can go in the midfield. I'm not too sure how he goes up forward, but I mean, I've already listed three spots as it is, 4 spots even as it is. But yeah, Weddle's going to be awesome. I'm actually kind of jealous we didn't pick him up, but then again, we got Ed Allen. I am pretty happy about that, to be honest. But yeah, there's a pick coming in very soon for Hawthorn now. But yeah, Isaac Keely's just been picked up by Saints again. Another good pick, bargain pick, if you ask me. So
again, a Yarrawonga boy, first year to the season. His history is really interesting. At the start of the year, he wasn't even on the radar of the Murray.
You happy with St Kilda's draft this year? Yeah, so far from what I've seen, you've done extremely well. Like Keeler, Philippou. Trying to see if there's anyone else. Yeah, I think it's just Philippou and Keeler. I mean, if that's your draft hand, I know it's 2 picks, but oh yeah, and James Van Ness, another one. Yeah, no, if you're St Kilda, oh, and also Ollie Houghton, that's a fantastic hand. Like, yeah, no, I'd be very happy if I was a St Kilda fan. I'd be extremely happy. That's a fantastic effort.
We spoke to you on Sunday night about whether or not the Swans players text you about who they're taking, but I can imagine Tom Papley must be pretty excited about playing next to Jacob Constanti going forward.
Alright, Hawthorn's pick is in. Oh, it's a bid from Essendon. Oh, this would be for Davey, I think.
Or into our recruiting department. He's claiming it, perhaps. He's really excited.
Is this for Alwyn Davey Jr.? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jacob and Tommy have exchanged quite a few texts over the last 24 hours.
Kinnear, before I let you go, you've had a massive year and a big couple of nights of the draft. You get to put your feet up anytime soon?
And got the rookie. That's almost like one of Riley's questions. Don't you know there's a rookie draft tomorrow?
And I'm actually hosting that
What
too.
are you
but
people
I
doing
completely
there?
forgotten about it. I don't know, Kinnear. It's been a long year. You know how it is. Enjoy the rest of tonight and the rookie draft tomorrow.
You're still trying to get over the AFLW final, I know.
I am, because last night I called the #1 draft pick and I said he was the #1 AFLW draft pick. So clearly that's what's on my mind. Hey, Kinnear, you're always so good with your time with us. So thank you very much.
But yeah, no, St Kilda have had a good draft. Hawthorn's had a good draft as well. Yeah, there's definitely been some good teams out there for sure.
That would have been too far, but in the time that we were sparring with Kinnear, or Sarah was, Isaac Keeler was taken by St Kilda at pick 44, and the Hawks...
So there's still Lemmy and there's still Scully.
...here because they have put a bid on Alwyn Davies.
So Isaac Keeler to start, he's a key forward and player who can play in the ruck potentially. It has been likened to Paddy Ryder with his capacity and athleticism.
Paddy Ryder is a ruckman, and yeah, Joe probably
along that time too. So
her as a forward. I would say as a comparison.
Obviously was a member of the Adelaide Next Generation Academy, but they didn't nominate him, so that's why after pick 40, the Saints, were able to just grab him and add him to their group. So that happens there. And then
there we go. So Hawks have now got 46 now.
As I said earlier,
and Alwyn Davey is a bomber under the father and son rule.
And just hadn't really done that much work sometimes on some of these players. They get attached to their own, and sometimes it eventually gets to the stage where, in this case, it was probably getting a little bit ridiculous that he was still there. So they make the bid there, Essendon match, and we'll be very happy that they get Alwyn Davey Jr. to add to their mix. And yeah, I wonder what jumper number he'll have at the Bombers. I think 33 is free, and I think he's a big Cyril Rioli fan from back in the day, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in 33.
That's a great number, 33, but he certainly is an exciting player, isn't he, Cal? Because
he looks alright in the 5, though. I will say that.
His best work in the midfield.
Yeah, that's right. He's skillful, he's crafty. Because of his dad's footy as a real crummer and speedy, lightning quick player at ground level inside the forward 30 almost. It's maybe a view that he's going to be similar to him. I think his brother is more similar to his dad, and I think Alwyn is more similar to the way Aaron played all his footy at Melbourne across his time, obviously. So the family history continues, and later we'll see Jaden Davey join as well, and they'll be the first ever father-son twins.
Well, you mentioned it before, Cal, but I actually really like his midfield traits. And we were at that game, at the Vic Metro game at Icon Park against Western Australia, and he went up the ground, pushed further up the ground. I like what he can produce in the midfield, and I think it'll take some time for him to get there at an AFL level to play midfield. I think he'll start his career as a small forward, but I really like what he's been able to do when he's gone into the on-ball group.
We played some VFL footy too, I think, for Essendon as well late in the year. So he's had some senior footy experience, which is good news for Bombers fans. So Alwyn Davey, officially a Bomber. Great news. That means Hawthorn is on the clock again. So pick 46. They've got 3 minutes left as we recap what Hawthorn has already done in the draft. Cam Mackenzie, of course, the French-speaking midfielder. I wonder how long that's going to get old. Probably past tonight. It'll be old with poor Cam Mackenzie. Josh Weddle, they took at 18, and I saw a little video.
Absolutely shocked with the 21 people in the chat. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, make sure to give the stream a like. Make sure to chuck a sub as well too. I definitely will be doing future content as well. Probably some breakdowns on some of the players, at least from a Collingwood point of view. And yeah, we'll just take it from there. And yeah, no, it's like the support tonight's been over the moon. As I said, I thought yesterday was fantastic, and today's effort, this has just blown yesterday out of the water. So thank you again so much.
In due time, but the fact that they've managed to get two really bigger body players in Cam Mackenzie and then Henry Hustwaite as midfield options this year, and complement those two with Josh Weddle, who, as you said, Sam Mitchell can see and potentially play.
Okay, here we go. Hawks pick is in.
Intercepting defender. So be interested to see what type of player they add to their mix here at pick 46.
All right, well, the pick is in as we wait to see what they might do here. The Hawks with their 4th pick in this year's draft, obviously trading in to get Weddle as well. We should remember that. But
Jack
missed out on
O'Sullivan.
Cooper Vickery,
There you go. He's a midfielder.
taken by the Swans.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the picks now where I don't really know much more about these players.
He heaps of footy this year. Unfortunately, missed a bit of time with an injury, but yeah, has some craft inside the forward 50 and through the midfield as well. 177 centimetres, back to full fitness now, so we'll hit the ground running. But that shoulder injury ruled him out of a fair chunk of the year. Riley, you spoke to him recently. A smile just went on your face because you're quite fond of him.
Yeah, I am. He's just a ripping kid. And when I spoke to him, obviously he missed a lot of the year with injuries, you mentioned, Cal, but he thinks he can be among the best players in this year's draft crop. Wow. He's got that confidence in his own ability, and you can sort of sense it with the highlight clips that we saw there. And I'm wrapped for him because I think he's put in all of the work he possibly could without being able to show the amount that he would have liked. So the fact that he found himself on an AFL list and that the club's backed his talent, I think he's the.
So apparently the heavy rumor is that Joe Richards is going to be our pick 48. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think he would probably prefer to play in the midfield. I think that's where he's probably played his best junior footy in time. But obviously, as we've seen from a number of players, and we saw it this year even at Hawthorn, players don't necessarily start their careers where they want to start them. They then move into their preferred positions as time goes on.
All right, so Jack Sullivan joins the Hawks. It means that Carlton is on the clock with pick 47.
Yeah,
already had
apparently that's the heavy rumor at the moment.
And Lockie Cowan, 2 lifelong Blues fans with their first 2 picks. They then took Jackson Binns, which Riley was red hot on. That was with pick 32. What do they look to do here, Riley, do you think?
Is there a chance that Harry Lemmy could come into things here?
Yeah.
Or at all?
I think a key position player is something that they've needed depth. It's an area where they've needed depth for quite a long time, and Harry Lemmy's an interesting one if they go that way in the sense that...
Or a ruckman, actually. Hudson O'Keefe could be a chance as well.
Yeah. But either of those options is because they've needed tall depth for a long period of time. We saw them at stages throughout last year where they really lacked options behind the ball when a few players got injured, and then forward of the ball as well. And Charlie Curnow made such a great return this year, but he's had an unreliable body throughout his career, and Harry Mackay's another one in that bracket as well. So I think they'll try and get an option either forward behind the ball in a key position slot or potentially as a ruck as well.
Yeah, and Hudson O'Keefe's been a player who has had some interest from them as well. They've looked at a couple of other rucks too. We know Max Noble was taken just shortly ago from Fremantle's perspective as well. So this is where we're entering the last 12, 13, 14 picks. A lot of names still need to be crammed into that group. And
I think that Carlton, I mean, they're speaking about it right now. They definitely need to back up to the key forwards. It's either Tom Scully or Harry Lemmy.
We know Cooper Harvey will get to. North Melbourne. Luke Teal's another prospect as well. So, yeah, that's some options for them there.
And you mentioned Harry Lemmy, a really interesting story as well. But like on Christmas Day, he was doing 100-hundreds with Riley Filthorpe from the Adelaide Crows. So there's already a bit of a relationship there. But imagine, I know the Brayshaw brothers do it, but can you imagine Christmas Day just doing...
There we go, Harry Lemmy.
And there we go, Harry Lemmy has been taken by the Blues.
All right.
Tell me a little bit more about him. He was an excellent junior cricketer as well.
Yeah, very good talent in that sport, but has chosen footy. And to be honest, at the start of this year, if you'd said that Harry Lemmy would be pick 47, you would have said, well, what happened? And because he's entered the year as a number 1 pick contender, just couldn't get going this year ahead of the ball, playing for South Australia and also West Adelaide. Last year, did some really good things in reserves level as a bottom ager. So that's some things that have carried on through. But he's probably been picked as a key back because of the performances of the latter stages of this year were much better playing in that role. And at his height, 199 centimetres, he's pretty athletic. Can mark it. I think he's definitely worth a go here.
Yeah, he's a key defender as well. Ace of spades. But Jacob Wiedering and Lewis Young were really their only key defensive options this year. They obviously brought Sam Durden in through the mid-season draft as well, so he provides another body for them. So if they are using him as a key defender, you can see why, in the sense that Lewis Young, for periods last year when Jacob Wiedering went out of the side for an extended period, was almost their only key defender left.
I mean, I've got a feeling we weren't even going to pick up Lemmy even if we tried.
And fun fact about Harry
So it looks like Joe Richards is going to be this pick. So we'll just see if it confirms it.
At the Carlton Football Club as we wait for Collingwood to make their selection here. Pick 48 for the Pies. Ed Allen, Jacob Ryan have been selected. They then traded pick 30 out to the Blues, and they've decided.
There we go, Richards official.
Joe Richards from Wangaratta.
Well, I don't think they were set on definitely using this selection unless the right player was there, and they traded out of that pick in the second round. Where
I thought they were done.
Where I think Richards would have been a consideration for the radar of clubs for a number of years now, but he's 22, but this year has gone from strength to strength. Been coached by Ben Reid at Wangaratta as well this year, so is a player who's been in that mix for the Pies and a number of other clubs, and I think a couple would have been looking at him in
Collingwood Ben Reid.
Yes, correct. So there's a bit of a link there.
Yes.
A few other clubs been watching Joe Richards closely as well. So the Wangaratta man finds his spot.
Well, it's funny because you say they were no guarantee to pick in this spot, but they've done well, because if they were considering Jacob Ryan with their first pick and they got him with their second, and they were considering Joe Richards with their second pick and got him with their third, that's a pretty good night for Collingwood. And it follows through from a pretty good trade period where they're able to get some really good experienced players into the football club, in Dan McStay obviously, and Tom Mitchell and Billy Frampton and Bobby Hill. So another really exciting player that they can add to their forward mix, which Bobby Hill will add to as well.
So another mature age player. We had Tom Emmett obviously join Fremantle earlier, and now we have Joe Richards. It's nice to see some players who weren't born in the 2000s actually getting drafted.
It's nice to see Richmond at this year's draft as well.
Oh, hello, as we welcome in Richmond.
Matt
welcome.
Clark, welcome to the party.
There we go. Tigers fans have had a very, very long wait.
Do you think they're after key forward support here,
what do
Cal?
you think?
Well, Tom Scully has been a player who's been linked to them a little bit, so he's a prospect who could be...
Another Tom Scully.
Yep, a 200-centimetre player from South Australia, kicked heaps and heaps of goals at the start of the season.
I'm actually shocked Scully's this low at this point.
I think Luke Teal is an option here potentially. He trained at the Tigers earlier this year, athletic half-back. Missed a lot of this season with injury, which was unfortunate for him, but I think he could be a shot here potentially. Seth Campbell's a Tasmanian prospect, a medium forward, who's potentially been linked around this part of the draft. I think many of the key forwards would have been options for them if they had have. Any of the key defenders would have been options for them if they had got through the second round. But we know nearly every second pick in that part of the draft would have been taken up. So I'm not sure how many key backs could be in that range now, but they'll be taking their time. Why not spend an extra couple of minutes on it, given they've spent the last 2 hours tonight?
Well, you might as well take your full 5
What do you reckon they were doing
minutes
last night? Do you just speculate on what's going on in the draft live as it happens? Are you still doing forward
playing Monopoly or something?
Uno?
Who is numero uno at Richmond in Uno?
Who won that game in the end? Was it
Riley
you?
won that
But
one.
you didn't say Uno.
No, I did. We reviewed the tape.
Yeah.
Okay. Just in case you missed it, you can catch up on our social channels, on the AFL social channels. But these boys decided to play Uno with Aaron Cadman and who else? Ollie Hollins. That's right, on the Draft Countdown show. So make sure you check that out.
You never know where that show's going to go next.
You don't, because you had Connect 4 with Georgie and Elijah, and George was actually really disappointing in Connect 4. I thought he'd be much better than he was.
Luckily North Melbourne weren't watching his Connect 4 skills before they drafted.
Could have seen him drop back a little bit in draft calculations. But a fun show, and you two have done a terrific job. Obviously, Cal as well. All of your draft coverage. We're nearly at the end. We've got the rookie and pre-season draft tomorrow as well. That's 3 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Standard Time, which I'm looking forward to doing with you.
Another player who's been looked at potentially in this part is Rye Penny, a player from the Calder Cannons, who's a runner. So he's another rebounder, not different type to some of the taller types, but in that mix. I'm interested to see what they do. I think Luke Teal, I'm not sure if they necessarily definitely pick him. I think he's worth a shot though, because athletically really, really strong, medium size, can take a mark, just has been sort of sight unseen to some degree across this year because of how much footy has missed with that injury at the shoulder.
We're about to see some clubs passing after this as well. We know Brisbane and the Giants, who are the next two clubs on the board, will definitely pass. So Richmond's got a pick as things stand currently at 49 and then 55. But that pick 55 will come in a fair way as well. So they'll be picking consecutive picks quite in succession of each other. So that's just one to watch over the next little period.
Geelong and Gold Coast also done. Obviously, just last night, Jai Clark going to the Cats.
But yeah, that'll probably be us pretty much done. I'd be surprised if we pick up anyone else now.
Looking to see if Lloyd Johnston gets a bid. He's an academy player for them. otherwise, I think a good chance to get through to the next generation academy rules and see join them through that way.
All right, we'll see what the Tigers do. They took their full 5 minutes and they've had, all
They'd have to go Scully, wouldn't they?
2 hours or so.
You'd have to go Scully.
Why not? Let's see what Matt Clark
Because Revel's not getting any younger.
at the Tigers have done in the end. Pick 49. Thanks for hanging on with us here on AFL.com.au. I know at this time of night it does drag out a little bit, but we do appreciate you all staying with us as we've talked a lot of, I'm not going to swear.
Caleb Smith, general defender.
Taken Caleb Smith here, who is a defender from WA.
Yeah, and a speedy one at that. His highlights tape is really exciting. He gets the ball in the back half and takes the kick-outs, and within a flash, he's at half back. He just goes and goes and goes. He's trusted with that role. Look at him go here. Look at the run through the middle of the ground. Look, he's been an eye-catcher in the second half of this season, so I think he's always been in that mix as a half-back, potential wingman. That's a possibility for him. He's also a state-level junior cricketer, so impressed at the combine, 2.88 seconds, so not just what you see with your eye, the evidence is there in terms of his speed, and will be given some opportunities to go through that part of the ground for the Tigers. Obviously picked up Tom Brown last year at the draft, and they see him as a sort of rebounding player who can run and gallop out of the back line, and this is an option for them too in him.
So as we said, we're likely to see a couple of clubs pass here in Brisbane and GWS, but just on Richmond, we've spoken about it a lot, Cal, in the past, that you can't necessarily judge a club's player movement window in isolation as 1 year. So Richmond's draft plan here, it might be risky to start this late in the draft and trade future picks and first-round picks both this year and next year for Tim Taranto and Jacob Hopper. But that's predicated on the fact that they brought in 5 players with top 30 picks last year. So they knew they had that underbelly of really young, good, raw talent at the football club that we saw a lot of this year. Josh Gibcus played some footy, Tyler Sonsie, Sam Banks, Judson Clark, and they also brought in, as you mentioned, Tom Brown. So they're 5 players that they've gone and got as top 30 picks.
Oh, here we go. Apparently Adelaide are going to trade out the Brisbane, and apparently they'll get a future third for it.
I think we've had a little bit of action, and we have indeed. So the Brisbane Lions and the Adelaide Crows have done a bit of a trade. So the Crows trade their future third-round selection to the Lions for pick.
Oh no, sorry. Brisbane traded out, not Crows, sorry.
And while we wait for them to make a call, we'll head out to Marvel Stadium where Sarah Ollie has St Kilda head of list management in James Gallagher with her.
Well, James, I just want to start with Mateus Filippo because I saw a video of him today and he was already down at RSCA Park at Moorabbin. Just tell us about this kid because he's clearly hungry to get stuck into it.
Yeah, he's a pretty enthusiastic kid, Mateus. It was one of the things that really appealed to us about him. And yeah, you're going to have to hold him back from getting started pretty early. So he came down and met a bunch of people at the footy club early this morning. He had a bit of media to do, and then flew out later on this afternoon. So no, he's keen to get started, the young fella.
Where do you see him getting started in terms of on the field? Because he's quite a versatile player.
He is. Yeah, that's probably a question that is best posed to the coaches. We think he's eventually going to develop into a big, powerful midfielder in the AFL. We got really high hopes for him. But he does have that ability because he's a good runner and he's a great athlete. He can play a bit outside the contest, whether that be on a wing or play, in a higher half-forward sort of role. So yeah, he's got some versatility. I think he'll just get to work over summer, and then the coaches can work it out next year where they want to start him and eventually see him playing.
And I was just talking to Swansley's boss, Kinnear Beatson, and he said he doesn't really like the term bolters or sliders because, of course, in your eyes, they're not bolters or sliders. But were you happy to see Mateus still on the board at pick 10? Very happy. So we sort of got an inkling that there'd be a chance that he'd still be there. Clearly, there was a bit of talk over the last couple of weeks about some clubs inside us that had some interest in him. I know speaking to some of the other guys, it was pretty line ball whether they picked him or not. But we're absolutely wrapped when he sort of slid out to us at pick 10 and couldn't call his name out quickly enough. He's going to be an absolute beauty. We're so excited to get to see him. And Nat, Cal and Riley, I'm sure you're all big fans too.
Absolutely, we are. James, thanks for coming on for a chat. You went tall after that with a couple of picks. James Van Ness, a key defender at one end of the ground, and Isaac Keeler at the other. Tell us about those two and how much they appealed in that area of the ground, because clearly you've looked to bolster those stocks.
Yeah, but we at the same time we stayed pretty true to our talent order. Cal, they're really talented lads. We did want to bring at least one tall in through the draft. We think it's really important that we keep investing there, and from a list perspective, we want to get some more developing tools onto our list. We've lost a couple over the last couple of years, and certainly in the forward line, we're a bit skinny there with Max, and then not many sort of genuine tools after that. Both terrific lads, really talented. James is a wonderful athlete. He's a big boy. He's sort of he's a man already. Very powerful. He's got some speed. Can kick it a long way, and he's a really competitive defender. But he does have some versatility, and Isaac, he's a talent. So we've seen him play quite a bit over the last couple of years. He's a really nice size, beautiful user of the ball for a player of his size. And has played a bit in the ruck and played a fair bit as a key forward. So we think if it all goes really well for Isaac, there's certainly potentially a really good AFL.
Still can't believe Tom Scully's still available.
Ollie Houghton, we love what we saw for him in the second half of the year with his natural athleticism when he started to show that X factor in the forward half. Where do you think he fits in at St Kilda?
I think
here we go, trade, Hawthorn.
He's got an ability to play as a midfielder, but probably so far his best stuff has been as a forward. He can play pretty close.
Oh, you watch Hawthorn will get Scully now.
He's clever, he's good overhead, but he's also got the ability to play up a bit higher up the ground as well. And then, like we mentioned,
God, Scully's going to compliment them so well too.
Werribee early in the year, played a really good game for Vic Metro there, and played some good footy in the second half of the year for Sandy in the midfield. So love his versatility. He's got some power. He's good in the contest, can take a mark overhead and can kick a goal too. So we think you can't bring enough of those sort of kids into your club. Local kid, really keen to get started and got a great attitude and thirst for the work. So we're looking forward to it.
James, congratulations on what you've achieved at the draft. Looks like you've got 4 good players in there. Thanks so much for joining us on AFL NAB Draft Night Live.
My pleasure.
I made an absolute meal of that one, didn't I? NAB AFL Draft Night Live. You got the words right, you didn't get the order right. Oh, God, it has been a long few days, that is for sure. Hey, we should mention there has been a trade that has gone down. That's right. So the Giants have traded pick 51 to Hawthorn for a future 4th round selection.
And before that,
I'm going to be pretty annoyed with this Scully.
Yes.
I ain't going to lie.
So Hugh Bond, I believe a national rower, but has only focused on footy in the last couple of years, Cal.
Yeah, he's tough. He's a tough player. He's someone who's competitive and those instincts come through in the way he plays, and that's been the case for his time at Big Country and the
Bailey McDonald
Rebels across the past couple of years. So,
there you go. So he's a general defender.
Certainly fits that mould of a tough player who's going to go in and win his own footy.
And the Hawks, with that traded pick, with pick 51, have taken Bailey McDonald, who is a defender from the Oakley Chargers.
There you go. Well, he was an option for a few clubs around this point of the draft. He's one who's come on in leaps and bounds late in the year, playing some school footy. A teammate of Elijah Sardis and Matt Jefferson and Kobe Bergiel as well at Wesley College. So certainly has some great awareness when he's got the footy in his hands. He uses the ball pretty well and gets going for his side. So someone who's, I'm scared to use bolter, but someone who's charged up the ranks late in the year.
Let's be honest, we're never going to stop using the terms bolter and slider. Sorry, Kinnear, that's just what we love, a bolter. Who doesn't love a draft bolter?
Kinnear.
That is correct. All right, so the Geelong Cats are on the clock now. They've got 4 minutes left. Pick
again, thanks everyone that's tuning into the stream.
All the way back to quite early on in last night's draft, of course, Jai Clark, the Geelong.
Yeah, as I said, thanks everybody that's tuned into the stream. It's been absolutely freaking awesome how much support that you guys have shown today. Definitely, yeah, absolutely blended out of the water compared to what you guys did yesterday. So, congrats to you guys, and yeah, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for future content. But then also as well to make sure to like the video if you haven't already.
They nearly got to their pick, so I think that would have been an option for them. Ruckman Cam Owen has got some interest as well. Do they go for another ruck though? Do they go for a tall forward? Phoenix Foster Jova and Petrick are options potentially. So they look at Mitch Skabowski as an inside midfielder and ball getter. That could be a couple of players around the mark at this point, knowing as well that Oscar Riccardi, if they don't attract a bid for him, will come through as a rookie-listed father-son pick, as will Ted Clohesi, a midfielder from the Geelong Falcons as well, through the Next Generation Academy system. So those two already budgeted for, I guess you'd say, as rookie selections, should they not get bids in the next number of selections that are...
Oh yeah, Phillips hasn't even been picked up yet.
Have we had a few clubs pass yet? I'm not sure.
Not yet. So the clubs that we expected to were Brisbane and GWS with 50 and 51, but they opted to trade those picks. So they're trading into the future. It is very good business because they weren't using them anyway. So the fact they managed to get, even if it is a really late pick in 2023, the fact that they managed to get something as opposed to nothing is a win for those clubs. A small one, given the context of what we've seen over the last 48 hours, but a win nonetheless.
So just to note, Cal, that you said 59 picks tonight.
I know.
We're at 52. It's getting very close. Do you want to change your mind at all?
We might nudge into the 60s. That's okay.
That's all right. We won't hold it against you. Not like the rest of your phantom draft, but we'll see. No. Geelong, 1 minute and 47 seconds left. And then Port Adelaide. Obviously, they've only had the one selection in the draft so far. That came all the way back at pick 36, where they took Tom McCullum, who's a key defender, and they've the Power fans have had to wait a fairly long time for them to get in, and I wonder what they'll do with pick 53 as well. And then you've got the Bombers 54 and the Tigers again at 55, Riley.
If that's the last pick Essendon have, will they just take Jaden Davey with that pick?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's what they do. I'm expecting to be a national draft father-son.
Yep.
Can be a rookie as well, but I expect him to be a national draft father-son.
Which is what North Melbourne, of course, will do with Cooper Harvey later on the night as well when their next pick rolls around.
Yep, correct.
That probably about 70 or
56.
Oh, 56. Okay, there we go. Yep.
The next one beyond Richmond there, Nat.
Oh, hey, I can't see. It's not on our graphic.
I wonder if Geelong thinks to themselves, and I know you're reaching the latter parts of the draft, but whether or not they think to themselves they might need a bit more key position depth, particularly forward of the ball as well. I mean, Tom Hawkins is 35 next year, Jeremy Cameron's 30 next year. Ollie Henry does arrive to provide another goal-kicking option for them, but whether or not they start thinking, right, do we need the next key position player in the forward line for us, and can we grab one late here that's worth a fly? Because as we've spoken about numerous times over the last couple of years, really, that you can find players that are key position players that are late developers in this part of the draft. Nick Larkey was one of them. Mitch Lewis was one of them. They were taken with picks beyond 60, and they've turned into really good players at North Melbourne and Hawthorn, respectively.
All right, pick is in for Geelong. Who have they picked up?
Pick is in for Geelong at 52. As I mentioned, Jai Clark. We have to go all the way back to pick 8 last night for their first selection of the 2022 NAB AFL Draft. This is their second pick. Cats fans have had to wait a pretty long time, and they've taken a ruck. Is it a ruck? Yeah, Phoenix.
A ruck forward.
Ruck forward, yep. And probably a bit of a surprise packet in the champs for South Australia.
Yeah, and he can grab it, he can mark it, he can jump and take a shot. So he's a player who will be given time as a bit of a project, I guess, in that he's athletic, and we see a couple of his grabs here playing against Vic Country and the Allies as well. So it goes up.
Still Phillips and Scully. Still Phillips and Scully.
Yeah, we'll be developing in a really good system now alongside some good key position players.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see his development because, yeah, talent-wise, there's a fair bit to work with there. And key forwards don't grow on trees, as they always say, 197 centimetres. So there's I think, some capacity to maximise more of that ability.
I agree. And as I just mentioned then, with Tom Hawkins and Jeremy Cameron, they'll be both the wrong side of 30 next year. I think this is about the time of the draft where they start to probably need to think about looking to see whether or not they can get another one of those types of players in and take a flyer, take a punt with one of them.
What are you thinking here?
Yeah, well, this is going to be likely their last pick, Port Adelaide. They probably have a couple of options, I would say. Tom Scully would be right in their mix as a key forward, 200-centimetre player who's kicked a lot of goals at sample under 18 level as well. I think Jed Hagen's another one who should be right in contention as well. So I think those two, Jed Hagen, very, very different player to Tom Scully. He's nearly about 30 centimetres shorter than him, 175-centimetre player, but a worker, a leader, plays through midfield, defence, can be a really dedicated, disciplined, small lockdown player. So weighing up oranges against apples in this circumstance, but that's what it gets to at this point of the draft.
Trees, oranges, apples. I don't know where you're going, but one thing I do know is Carlton has taken 4 selections in the draft so far.
Oh no, please. Oh, I've just been told. Apparently this is Scully.
With Sarah Ollie.
Nick, we spoke spoke to Ollie Hollins yesterday. He was so excited to become a blue bagger because he's grown up supporting Carlton. But this is more than just a boyhood dream realised for Ollie, isn't it? Because it adds that dash and run that you guys need.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great story. Like to have family play for the club and playing grand finals, and it just meant so much to him. And for us, yeah, to have him at that pick.
Or did they pass?
Desperate need for us. But
Oh
also,
no! Oh, there you go. So Ethan Phillips is the last one.
And what about tonight? You were keen to get up to selection 30 to get Lockie Cowan. What have you seen in this defender from Tasmania, and why did you want to get up there and get him?
Yeah, look, we had Lockie rated really high. We love his competitiveness. He's a great athlete. He provides that dash and that running carry, and he's got an aerial threat, but he's also a beautiful long kick. So we love the way he plays. We love his attitude. He's a leader and he's aggressive. So it's a really good fit for us too.
All right, over to you, Cal, Nat, and Riley.
I'm actually shocked he went that low, to be honest. Absolutely shocked.
Ollie Hollins and then Jackson Binns later on the draft. How much of a point of emphasis was that throughout this player movement period?
Yeah, look, it was. A clear focus. We wanted to increase our running capacity as a group, and we feel like Blake Acres adds that too through the trade period. So to add 3...
I don't think Essendon need a key defender now. They've got Hayes.
We're really comfortable with the mix.
Nick, what about Harry Lemmy? What are you picking him as? A key back, key forward, a mix? What are you sort of identifying as his starting position when he enters the footy club later this week?
Yeah, good question, Kel. I think front half for a start, but we loved his ability to move back later in the year. He looked a natural in defence. He marked the ball, but first and foremost, we think Harry to develop his front half game and to have a tool under Harry and Charlie to come in and develop and learn his craft. It's really exciting to complement the 3 runners that we've brought in. We're really comfortable with the mix.
Nick, you've got a really lovely mix there. Congratulations on what you've achieved at the draft, and we can't wait to see how it all unfolds for you in 2023 and beyond.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Nick Austin there with Sarah Ollie at Marvel Stadium. And in that time, Port Adelaide with pick number 53 in this year's draft took Tom Scully. He's a soccer convert. Still pretty raw, Cal, as a key forward, but we spoke about him a lot early days in Road to the Draft podcast, and then he dropped off a little bit.
Familiar name in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
Number 1 pick from 12, 13 years ago, Tom Scully, Melbourne.
Testing yourself there.
I think it was 2009. Anyway, Tom Scully, very different player to him. 202 centimetres, takes a lot of marks, kicks a lot of goals, kicked 50 goals this year at Sandful, under 18 level, playing for West Adelaide. So I think that's a project that Port Adelaide was definitely worth taking on. There's talent there. He can grab it. He converts his opportunities. Didn't have an influence, for South Australia in the championships. Was overlooked at games there, which probably pushed back his draft spot. But I think certainly at the back end of the draft, these type of guys are absolutely worth a shot. And we've seen his ability to hit the scoreboard. So another good pick from Port Adelaide there, I think.
All right, so Essendon, pick 54 is in, and this is what we expect is that Jaden Davey will be taken here as a father-son, and that is correct. So the twin of Alwyn Davey Jr.
There we go. So they've got both Davies.
The Bombers, and that's just really lovely. The first ever father-son twins.
Yeah, you don't see too many twins come through the draft.
Love it.
There's been a couple over the last 10 years. We saw the Mackays, obviously, and the College Jasneys.
Still no evidence they're separate people.
And the College Jasneys in 2013 as well, Cade and Jake. So Jaden and Alwyn joined the Bombers, and they boost their small forward ranks. We had Brad Scott on the draft night countdown show a couple of days ago, Riley, and it was about Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody is coming back as well. Obviously, he's re-signed for the club next year. He'll be back and hopefully getting back to that sort of conditioning to be ready to have an impact. He hasn't played in a long time, so the expectations are that it'll take some time to build there. But him working with and alongside the Davey boys is going to be pretty exciting. They spend a lot of time at the club when they were about this.
There's so much vision in them when they're tiny.
I actually remember them running around in the rooms.
That's how old you are.
I've been doing this. I remember them running around the rooms as little kids during James Hurd's coaching stint there when Alwyn got to that 100th game. And what an important moment it was that James Hurd got him to that 100th game when it was at the end of his career. He played 100 games to make sure that his boys would be eligible for the footy club down the track, and here they are now.
No, it's fantastic. And Jaden has spent a lot of time coaching Alwyn.
Yeah, so at this point, from a Collingwood point of view, the only player we'd probably want to go after is Ethan Phillips. So, got another. We'll see if I can. Do I have the
this journey.
I
It's
don't
absolutely
have the
fabulous to see
thing.
them at the Bombers at the moment. So Richmond are on the clock. There can't be too many picks left in the 2022 NAB AFL Draft. Pick 55 for the Tigers, and as we mentioned, they've only had the one other pick, and that was at 49, and they took Caleb Smith, who's sort of a very quick half-back or maybe even a winger type.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't think that was necessarily a pick on needs. That was just a guy who's shown a bit in the second half of the season to say, well, let's give him a go in our system. And you can never have too much pace. Pace never goes out of fashion at AFL level. So if you've got that in a capacity to break the line,
so how's the
Smith certainly could be on that front. And look, it only needs sometimes a pretty small sample size. The slices
still got 74, but there's going to be a whole bunch of
for the
what's it called?
For the Tigers last week, it was a relatively
passes, you would think.
Amount of
Yeah, thank you to everybody that has watched the stream. If you haven't already, please make sure to give the stream a like if you have enjoyed the content. And yeah, if you want to keep up to date with future content, make sure to subscribe as well. But yeah, yeah, thank you so much for all the support you've shown in the stream. It's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you
love
do.
my vanilla slices.
You also love a free feed. You've gone to a lot of games this year, like NAB League games and all the rest.
Yeah.
Has there been one club or even a draftee's house that you've been to that put on a really great spread?
It's a good question. The schools do a good job. The schools do a good job. I'm always very lucky when there's a Saturday afternoon game. And
you do a phantom form guy with your free feeds.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Maybe next year.
It's got NAB AFL Draft Night countdown written all over it.
It does actually. Happy to sample.
Do you know David Twin?
Because you played Uno, you've had Connect 4, your song was an
Yeah, they were actually just saying that just before, actually.
We are going to replay that for
Yeah, because I mean, obviously there's been twins, but I don't. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if they're the first ever father-son twins. Because yeah, I definitely can't think of any. There's been like multiple. There's been more than one, or like obviously two kids that go under the father, and some of them never twins. There you go. I mean, the first there is a first for everything, I guess. But apparently the one, so Jaden Davey, he's currently injured at the moment, I believe, with an ACL. They're actually saying that Jaden Davey's actually the better one out of the Davey twins. But Alwyn Davey is still a very good footballer though. And I believe, where did Alwyn go? Alwyn went in, I think it was like pick.
The Swans previously, back in the 90s, I think it was. So a few options.
I think it was the mid-40s he went, or early 40s.
So there are some capacity here to maybe pick a diamond in the rough, and we'll see what happens.
All right, the Tigers pick is in. So wait to see what they have
Definitely not 25.
come up with here. As I mentioned, Caleb Smith joined
45, there you go.
At pick 49, so this is their other tick. And they've gone with Steely Green, who is an inside midfielder from South Fremantle, Cal.
Yeah, he is.
Name.
It's a great name. It's a great name. It's a great story as well. Steely Green.
I wonder if they're going to do the Thunder story.
By lightning when he was out.
Oh yeah, lightning. That's it.
Yachting, and he's managed to survive that and come back, and now he's on an AFL list and with the best.
Imagine that, being struck by lightning and living.
He did some really good things for Western Australia at times this year. Average 19 disposals as
I don't know how many people can say that.
Senior level for South Fremantle as well. So played some senior footy.
And again, to be fair, I don't think many people would be trying either.
The combine where he was in the top 5 for the agility, and also the 2 kilometre time trial was under 6 minutes and 20 seconds. So that shows his mix. And look, he's going to be given some time there as well. There's no rush, I think, with a later pick coming through. But a smaller midfield type who definitely has a go. And we know that the Tigers aren't afraid of picking West Australians.
Which team do you think had the best draft? I'll see if I can get the clubs up.
Bolstered throughout the trade period as well. Obviously, we know about Jacob Hopper and Tim Taranto coming to the club, and I think they've done that.
I mean, so far Adelaide have got Max Michelini, I believe, Billy Dowling, and Hugh Bond. Yeah, it's pretty solid. Probably nothing like super amazing, but that's very solid. Brisbane got Ashcroft and Fletcher. Can't really go wrong there. 2 extremely good players. Had to give up a lot, but I mean, when you get two kids of that quality, you make the sacrifice. So I think you give that a big tick. Carlton get Hollins, Cowan, Binns, and Harry Lemmy. Jeez, I mean, how can you say no to that? Like, that's a very, very good that's a very good pick. Sorry, a very good draft hand. I mean, Collingwood, we've got Ed Allen, Jacob Ryan, Joe Richards. I believe we're going to pick up another one, potentially. Hopefully, Ethan Phillips, but we'll wait and see. Probably great without being amazing, if I've got to be honest. It's more list needs and holes that we have in our list in certain positions. But still, yeah, very, very solid, but not like amazing or great. I'd probably consider it a very, maybe like an 8 out of 10 potentially. Yeah, great without being amazing. Essendon, Tasadas, Hayes, and then both Davies, super solid. Super solid. That's, yeah, really like that. Hugh Davies, don't know too much about him. Tom Emmett, about the same. Max Noble is, yeah, Max Noble is someone that's going to take a bit of time, but again will be a very good ruckman. GWS, Cadman, Rowson, Jones, Gruski, and McMullen. Don't know about this one. They've had a few picks there. I feel like Cadman's definitely carrying that in terms of if it's going to be a good draft hand.
Firstly, Jason and I are just going to settle an old score.
Again, slightly undersold. I'd say that's a good draft hand, but not a great draft hand. Geelong, Clark, and Phoenix Foster. Yeah, pretty solid. Solid without being amazing. I mean, like, probably give it, I don't know, 7. Considering they sacrifice a lot. Bailey Humphrey for Gold Coast. I mean, I don't think you can give it 10 out of 10 for one player, but I'd definitely give that an 8 for sure. An 8, maybe 8.5 if you twisted my arm a bit. And then Hawthorn, McKenzie, Weddle, Huswaite, O'Sullivan, McDonald. I don't know too much about the last two, but the first 3 there are fantastic. I mean, that's easily, at this point, that's easily a 9 out of 10. And if I look at Sutherland and McDonald a bit, maybe that could be a 10. But no, that's a very good effort. Melbourne got Jefferson and Jed Adams. Solid without being great. Cheezel, Warlord, George, Braden George, and Cooper Harvey. Yeah, I'd say that's very solid. That's probably like an 8.5, I reckon. And could potentially be a 9 even. I actually, the more I probably think about it, I might even change that to a 9, but that's a very good draft hand. Port Adelaide, Tom McCullum and Thomas Scully.
We wanted to bring in some taller players through this draft if we could.
Probably not a lot of proven talent and a lot of like talent that's going to be ready straight away, but you definitely give that, I don't know, you give that a 7.
He was able to come back in. He played some
Richmond, you got Caleb Smith and Sealy Green. I mean, I always thought Richmond, if there was ever a team to lose the draft, I feel like Richmond was going to be it because you just weren't going to pick up guys with a heap of talent in these picks. I don't know too much about Caleb Smith. I know a little bit about Sealy Green.
And that gave us a lot of confidence. He played as a key growing up, but clearly we've predominantly seen him as a key back this year.
God, I'd even probably give that a 5 out of 10 to be honest. That's no, that's pretty average.
I wasn't looking at the camera then, Cal.
And then Mateus, Van Ness, Ollie Hott, and Isaac Keeler for the Saints. Yeah, I'd give that.
Yeah, we'll assess that. What's left on the order, and then yeah, we'll go from there, mate. But we're likely to have one. For sure.
I'd give that a 9, maybe 9.5, if my arm got twisted a bit.
Thank you.
But no, that's again very good draft hand. Sydney Swans, Costanti, Vickery, Caleb Mitchell. I don't know too much about those guys. Costanti I know a little bit. Vickery I know a little bit. Caleb Mitchell I don't know too much about. I'd say it's just solid, like maybe like a 7, 7.5. I don't think anyone would be. I don't think a Sydney Swan supporter would be jumping up for joy with anything like that. But you know they're definitely not bad picks. And then West Coast with Jimby, Hewitt, Barnett, and Burgle. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty solid. I'd say that's an 8.5. And then last team, the Doggies. Buzzlinger, Clark, and Elgar. I don't know much about the last one, but the first two are pretty solid picks. It is 3 players. I'd probably I'd give that. I'd say I'd give that an 8 out of 10. That's just a quick sort of roundup, but I might do that in terms of a video. I might do like an overall review of all teams. But that's roughly what I think.
And get ready to play as a prospect potentially, but I think category B rookie is where he is most likely to now end up, and there's been a number of players on that front as well.
Yeah, so
a couple of options there as well in Jordan Baker and Tyrell Drewer through the category B options.
I mean, yeah, North did pretty well.
Edwards as well at Sydney as an academy player through as a rookie selection there.
Yeah, I mean, I went through the whole thing. I've already forgotten. But I think I do agree, Tom, that North did definitely have a good draft. At least from a Collingwood point of view, I think we had a solid draft, but not really an amazing draft. But we picked out players that were there to do a role. They were role players that we needed. But yeah, I think there's a bit of talent there, and
have access to him as a potential rookie, so that could be a possibility as well.
And he'll give Steely Green a run for his money.
And then we also got a future second out of it, which I probably wouldn't have in the calculations, but that's just another thing to add on to.
We've had quite a few clubs passing, so pick 58, and the Eagles have already done a fair bit of work, as we know. Ruben Jinby, Elijah Hewitt, Harry Barnett in a ruck, and Kobe Bergil, who's a midfield or a forward. But
oh, come on, Ethan.
Quick. So that's what their draft hand looks like at the moment. And
all right, so our pick's gone to 65 now after all this. Passing.
Small player who's played at Bendigo this year. I did have some interest a little bit further up the board, but I think a couple of clubs who had some interest in him probably tapped out with their picks. So, can go inside and get the footy, 180 odd centimeters, and certainly has that endurance to go pretty well.
Yeah, I mean that's what they're saying. I know for this draft they definitely said that it was going to be a great year for key. For some key position players, but I mean,
a pretty solid player there.
There was definitely some very good key position talent, but it just wasn't like there wasn't a lot of demand for it this year. But there was definitely some key position talent for sure.
Whether or not it would be Elijah Hewitt or Ed Allen at that pick. Do you think they looked at it from a sense of getting Ruben Jinby at 9, a bigger-bodied midfielder, and thinking to themselves, Ed Allen's in a similar mix, can play a similar role. Do we need someone that's maybe a different profile of midfielder, which is where they got Elijah Hewitt? Or do you think that would have played into their considerations at all?
Yeah, I think also just the fact that it's talent first at that part of the draft. And the other part of it with Elijah Hewitt is there was definitely considerations from a number of clubs that he might get taken inside the teens and a club might come back in. So it was going to be risky to try and get him through and play the tactical game and get him through to that third pick where they took Harry Barnett today. So that's probably an element of where you need to know what's happening and what's out there, because Ed Allen, clearly they rated behind Elijah Hewitt, and Elijah Hewitt's certainly got that power and explosive streak to be a real eye catcher within that top group. So I think we'll see a fair bit of Jinby and Hewitt next year together.
Do you think Port Adelaide picks here?
I would say it's unlikely. I'd say it's unlikely.
You're just hoping that you get the 59 right, aren't you?
Well, we need one more for that, but I would say that's unlikely. But they've got Nathan Barklow, who's another one of these players who's a potential NGA prospect. They've committed to him as a rookie as well, a Category B rookie, should he get through tonight, which is obviously going to be that way. So he's a prospect out of their academy system, and I think it's good for the NGA prospects to are on the fringes to get that opportunity, and clubs are happy to sort of store them on that list and see how they go.
So Port Adelaide have got 2 key position players in the draft so far. Their first pick for the entire draft came at 36, so they had to wait a fair while. They got Tom McCullum, who's from Tasmania,
We go, pick is in.
defender. Then they decided to select Tom Scully, not the Tom Scully, the number 1 draft pick from a few years ago, the midfielder, but a key forward at pick 53, and Tom Scully was a soccer convert as well. So Riley, they've done pretty well here, and it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, we've got pick 65, so hopefully.
Last year of his contract as well.
Kyle Marshall. I wonder if he's related to Todd Marshall.
They take Kyle
Key defender.
Marshall, another key position player. So it's quite interesting what they're doing here.
Yeah, 200 centimetres as a tall defender. So you're hitting high notes at that point, aren't you? And you know, him and Tom Scully can go and train together on each other and probably work well together alongside each other. So, yeah, prospect who can jump, has played some good footy this year for South Adelaide.
All right, so that is Port Adelaide, probably
St Kilda will be
done now, so St Kilda might be out. So this could be it, Cal.
Just on Port Adelaide as well, I think we've mentioned it before, but...
Pick is in?
Oh, the pick is in? No, that's past.
No, okay.
Just on Port Adelaide, as we mentioned before, they came into this draft probably with...
There we go, first pass.
Not a glaring gap, but a little bit of a gap in terms of key position talent. And particularly behind...
So that would make us 63 now.
Like Tom Jonas and Tom Cleary
Wait,
and
what?
Lear and Trent McKenzie really has been their only 4 options behind there. So the fact they've managed to bring in 2 key defenders in this draft period...
Oh, they passed. Oh, okay, so maybe this is a bit forward ahead of time.
I'm really excited about what Port Adelaide do next year. Jason Horne-Francis...
Oh, come on, Ethan Phillips.
Everyone knows my thoughts about Zach Butters and where he's going.
Oh, you good thing.
Rosie, I feel like, is going to be full-time midfielder almost after what we saw in the back half of this season.
And the fact that Junior Rioli probably allows him to play more midfield time as well.
I think Orazio Fantasia's hit the track pretty well as well.
Get his body right.
Yeah, and just had an interrupted year last year with a lot of things across pre-season heading into the year. He's a pretty crucial player for them as well.
Yeah, I know, Tom. I'm hoping.
I think there's a lot to be excited about with what Port Adelaide have
put
together, and it's been a really strong
That's good.
for them.
All right, the Tigers have passed as well. So, Cal, it looks like you could be on the money here with just 59 picks tonight. It's a tense time as Brisbane decide what they're going to do. Surely they're just passing here.
They'll be out, I think.
I'd say so.
You'd imagine so. And Melbourne, we know, because they've packed up and left their recruiting room.
Yeah, they have. Well, so Brisbane and Hawthorn and the
Okay, so Brisbane pass, and we should be alright.
at the back end here, but
Yes, I've got it from here. They'll pass.
I mean, Hawthorn have
So if Melbourne pass, then yeah, here we go. Moment of truth.
They always like Riley to leave some room for the mid-season draft just because they've done so well.
Yes, they have.
Come on, let's get Ethan Phillips. We need a key defender.
Came via that avenue. They got a couple of ruckmen in as well last year, so a couple of players they hope to develop over a long period of time. So, yeah, they've done really well, and you'd expect a few clubs to leave open spots potentially.
Come on, Tom, get excited.
Train-ons that'll do some work with them over Christmas, and then
Philippou, future, bro. Mate, I can definitely see it. It would not shock me in the slightest. Especially if the kid is able to,
You are the guru, so I expect you to potentially know. But how many?
Here we go. Here we go.
Looking at in terms of tomorrow.
He's available. Come on, let's pick him up.
Who is the number 1 pick next year? Is it Harley Reid?
Might be Harley Reid. For tomorrow's rookie draft, I don't think there's going to be many more than 25 or so, but I think a lot of those will also
Don't pass. Don't pass.
experienced players getting
Fucking that. Oh my god.
types as at the Suns, or Jake Stein at the Suns as well, from Fremantle and GWS respectively. Jed Anderson's a chance to be a rookie pick tomorrow. He might also be a SSP pick for the Suns later in the year. That can go through that way. So I do think we probably won't see that many new faces, which again is going to be really difficult because you look at some of the names who haven't been picked up, and talk about Sam Gilbey, an injury hit season. Mitch Skabowski from the Dandenong Stingrays of Vic Country had a really strong season as well. Jaden Magor, Luke Teal. It's a challenge for a lot of these guys but I do think, and I also think that Blake Drury is a really strong chance to be taken in the rookie draft tomorrow. I'd expect him to get a go, and I hope he does, because Blake Drury is
Is there going to be any father and sons go top 10 next year? I'm not too familiar with father and sons next year. In fact, I barely even know who's available next year, period, let alone father and son.
And probably plays in a slightly similar role as well.
How much of an impact do you think the fact that we've had 2 COVID-interrupted years has played on this too, with some of these guys' development? Because it's probably set a few back in terms of that. So then they might be later bloomers or just needed more time playing footy.
I know. Is it Harley Reid? Apparently, Harley Reid's going to be is currently the early favourite to be the pick to be the pick one next year. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of time between now and then, and anything can happen. I mean, if it's a Harley Reid. Yeah, I mean, if he does an ACL at some point, which could happen at any point, unfortunately, he could go from pick 1 to pick 40 with that alone. So you just never know.
Players that we love already, and so much talent there, and there is a lot of ability to scour across.
But yeah, the early favourite is Harley Reid for the number 1 pick, and after that, I have no idea.
In the past couple of years, so that's a really good thing about this year as well.
The one thing I'd say as well, if these players that do miss out on their chance either tonight or tomorrow at the rookie draft, they need just to look at one player from this year's draft as inspiration. Look at someone like a Harvey Gallagher, who at the back end of last year had completely dropped away in his top age year as an 18-year-old, didn't have any interest going towards the draft, missed out on mid-season having had a really strong first half of the year and thought his AFL dream was over, but then managed to have a really solid back end of the season, changed position, started kicking goals, enjoyed his footy again, and winds up on an AFL list. So he's a perfect example of a
this actually might be it.
Now, and I know there's not many at the end of every year. I mean, he's a one-off this year, for example, but it can happen if you have a really strong year.
Cal Toomey, you must be a relieved man nearly, because we have, I think, maybe 3 more selections possibly, if we're looking at our tablet right. And so far we are stuck on 59 selections as a total number for this year's draft, and that's what you said at the start of tonight. On record, you said there'd be 59, and right now we're on 59.
Maths is not my strong suit, never has been. I'm not great with numbers, but that would be a nice number to have got, right?
It would be. It would be. How are you feeling?
I think we're there.
We're nearly there. All right, well, let's get to Sarah Ollie while we just kill some time for a little bit, and she has Stephen Wells from Geelong with her.
Well, Stephen, talk to me about Jai Clark. He is another local boy. He's from Queenscliff. He doesn't have to travel far to get to the Cattery. Was that behind your thinking?
Yeah, so we've got one list spot left.
Or is he just a great kid and a great player?
Sarah, I can understand why people might associate the easy choice of picking a boy from Queenscliff, a Geelong Falcon, big country boy, but it was Jai's talent that got him picked by the Cats. He's had an outstanding couple of years, really, and the qualities that he shows were exactly what we were looking for when we had our pick. Great choices that we had to make, because there were very, very good players around our selection, but it was hard to overlook Jai, and it just worked out well for us that he's from Queenscliff.
Who do you think is the worst number 1 draft pick of all time? That's something I'd probably need to think about, to be honest.
Coming into the system. Can you tell us about those comparisons and how real they are in terms of his playing style, but also the leadership qualities that he has?
Well, I think it's any player would take it as a compliment to be compared to Joel Selwood, but we just want Jai, to be honest. It's probably too much to expect that anyone will be the next Joel Selwood.
I don't think it'd be fair to pick anyone that's been drafted in the last few years, because they haven't had a chance to finish their career.
Some of the other leaders that we have at the club and have had in the past. He's also a great ball getter and a terrific teammate, a tough kid. So I can understand the comparisons.
I don't know.
A couple of times we just want Jai to be Jai.
All right, Cal, Nat Riley, over to you.
Stephen, you had a bit of a wait between picking Jai and then your next selection coming in with Phoenix Foster. What do you expect from Phoenix early doors, and how do you see his development going as a key position player who showed a bit at times this year?
Yeah, Cal, Phoenix is complementary to what we already have at the club. I suppose he and Jai are pretty different players, and we took into account also what we already had in the last couple of years of drafting. And Phoenix is a tall player. He's got plenty of athleticism, great skill for a big fella, a good competitive drive, and at 197 centimetres, we've obviously got a bit of time to see him develop. And talking to him just a little while ago, we know he's very excited to get to Geelong and see how he goes.
Stephen, there's been 59 players picked in this draft, and that's what it'll land on in the end. It's one of the lowest amounts since the draft's come through, particularly in recent years as well. Is there any trends that you've seen from watching other clubs around the selection, and also just we're talking about before about the COVID lag of a lot of these players over the last couple of years, and how real that's been in terms of the performances this season?
Yeah, I think it's totally reasonable to say that the development of the players, particularly in Victoria over the last couple of years, has been compromised a bit with lack of footy. It's not just the lack of games they play, but it's the hundreds of training sessions they miss as well. But I haven't assessed how other clubs have gone and what trends there might be. I know at our club, the only reason we had the 2 selections in this national draft was because we had 3 players coming through the trade period. So still 5 new players into the club. We'll have 2 or 3 rookies as well, and an Irishman come in. So we still have a turnover of about 10 players, which is pretty normal for us, I guess. But yeah, there's no doubt all of these players that have got their chance at this year's draft will appreciate it.
Stephen, you're obviously going to bring a couple of players in tomorrow as well, and Oscar and Ted. What can you tell us about them, and what can Cats fans expect from them?
Well, assuming they're still not picked tonight, I don't think it's quite over, but maybe it is. But Oscar Riccardi, the son of Peter, has tested brilliantly well. He's got great endurance and great skill, but Oscar's a very, very smart footballer. Played on the wing and in defence for the Geelong Falcons. After being one of those players that you talked about was affected by COVID, he really came from nowhere at the start of this season, having not played much footy at all recently. And Ted Clohessy is a good, tough, competitive midfielder. Deserved his chance to get onto an AFL list, and it's going to be as a rookie with the Geelong Footy Club after not getting drafted tonight, but him being an NGA player.
Well, good luck tomorrow as well, Wellesley, and well done on what you have achieved tonight. 2 selections there, Jai Clark and Phoenix Foster. We can't wait to see what the Cats do in 2023. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nat. Thanks, everybody. Bob.
Stephen Wells there with Sarah Ollie, and that is the draft done and dusted for 2022. Thanks so much for sticking with us. We are going to be back on the other side of this to just break it down for you, recap all that.
All right, we'll stick around for that.
A lot to analyze and unpack. But before we do that, of course, there's only one song we've been talking about this week. She's Will Be Loved. Here, enjoy this.
Should I have this on the stream?
Yes.
Run through them. What have we had?
We've had Wonderwall, The Crows Just Need a Tall. We didn't start the fire. The dogs are going to get Jamara, which was, it was pretty good, that one.
Yep.
We had Born in the USA, which was obviously Horn in the SA, which is, I'm not sure if that's aged well or not.
Underrated, I reckon.
Yeah, but also like it's sort of aged.
He has gone back to the SA.
And this year we've been sort of working through our options for the draft song. And before we get too criticised for what's coming up, just mind you that we've had about 8 hours of full-on draft content over the last couple of days and leading into tomorrow. And across from that, probably 20 hours of draft content live. So spare us a couple of minutes of indulgence and just a little bit of fun to line things up. A couple of options. Obviously, it's got to be player related.
Yes, to this year's draft.
So we had a suggestion come through around take me to the father-son in Brisbane. Whoa. A little like Cuba. Ashy was, as in, it's not the same Ashy was, as in Ashcroft, obviously. And you know that this one's been on my radar for a while.
Yeah, this one has. And Cal was listening to it the whole day, and it didn't get tiring at all.
No. Yeah. I'm a cat man. Beep, ba, 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 da, boop. Anyway,
we also
had one as well.
Yeah, Arctic Monkeys, I bet you look good in the dance floor. I bet the Kangas are taking George Wardlaw.
That would have been good.
Would have been nice.
But it doesn't, it's very quick. A bit too grunge.
A bit too, yeah. We would have had to.
So anyway,
through it.
We decided on this one for this year's draft song, and it is She's Will Be Loved. She's Will Be Loved by Maroon Pick 5. Anyway,
this is ending the show, right?
This is going to see us out for today's show. We'll see you tomorrow if you can last these next couple of minutes. All right, you ready?
I doubt that we'll be able to.
Why is it always me who starts these?
I don't know.
Sandy Dragon, only 18. He had no trouble kicking goals. I know the words. Will Ashcroft and Cam McKenzie, they were playing different midfield roles.
He ran for miles and miles and wound up picked by North.
Love that.
They've had so many top picks and somehow they have more. I don't mind seeing Cadman at 1. Wardlaw, Sardis and the father's son. Look for the half forward with all the goal. Kanga's keen to have him stay a while. And she's will be loved.
Hit the high note.
And she's will be loved. Tap down to Jinby and to Jai Clarksons. Hawks and Cats got them ranked. Slinger got the spoil, Humphrey got this mark. Nobody even said they've tanked. It's not always beep tests and Tom trials, it's interviews and psychs and questionnaires.
Yeah.
Where does Philippou go for a phantom? It's not fair.
Yeah. Here we go.
I don't mind seeing Cadman at 1. Really clap going. Wardlaw, Starters and the father's son. Look for the half forward with all the goal. Kanga's keen to have him stay a while, and she's will be loved, and she's will be loved. Bring us home, Cal.
A bit of news in here. The Bombers, they looked, he wasn't getting through. They thought about splitting their pick into 2. Ed Allen, he came, but not high enough to stop the Roos from siding with Harry Stuff. Yeah. Tap in his draft number, scroll through his snaps. His goals are gonna be plentiful.
Last time. I don't mind seeing Cadman at 1. Wardlaw, Sardis and the father's son. Look for the half forward with all the goal. Kanga's keen to have him stay a while, and she's will be loved. High note, Cal.
And she's will be loved.
You're
There
welcome.
we go.
My gift to you viewers out there. Maybe don't quit your day job, but I actually enjoyed that. I think that was better than last year.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I probably did too. It's been pretty well received.
It's up there with the dogs are going to get you, Mara.
Yeah, and Harry liked it, which is always important as well. So.
All right, well done. All right, so the draft is actually over. 59 picks. That's what we landed on in the end. Well done, Cal. A big tick to you. Again, we're going to recap exactly what has happened here across the 2 nights of the 2020.
All right, let's do a bit of a breakdown.
All the way back to night 1 and round 1, it was Aaron Cadman who was the number 1 draft pick. Will Ashcroft, that bid coming from North Melbourne, so he went number 2 as soon as the Lions matched that bid. Harry Sheasel, George Wardlaw there, 3 and 4, just as we thought. The pick that caused Cal a lot of sleepless nights was the pick 5 with the Bombers. They took Elijah Sardis, then Bailey Humphrey fell to the Gold Coast Suns, Cameron McKenzie to Hawthorn. So that was all pretty straightforward, that top 10, Cal. And as we go over the page, this is where it started to get a little bit interesting because that bid for Jasper Fletcher came a little bit earlier than we had thought, but Elijah Hewitt at West Coast, that was the one.
No, it was. And they had the big call to make between Elijah Hewitt and Ed Allen, the locals there, and also Matt Jefferson, to be honest, was right in that conversation as well. So that was where that one left. And then the last pick of last night was Darcy Jones at the Giants, which opened up things for round 2, which became a key defender marketplace.
It was.
Who wants one? We got him. Max Grzuski the Giants, he can go back and go forward. Harry Barnett, the ruckman there, changes things up a little bit for the Eagles mix. They went for pace and power alongside of that. Look at all the other key backs. Essendon, Lewis Hayes, there's one there. Braden George, I think that's a good pick for North Melbourne. Put him away for next year, but get him ready with his ACL coming back and a prospect there. Go a couple more. James Van Ness went to St Kilda. Hugh Davies went to Fremantle to continue the key defenders as well. Tom McCallum, another tall defender, to the Port Adelaide Footy Club. And Jed Adams, a tall defender at Melbourne as well.
And then we started to get into the 3rd round of draft and onwards. I was really happy for Harvey Gallagher, as we mentioned, the 19-year-old comes back and gets his opportunity. Another mature ager finds his way to Fremantle in Tom Emmett. They also went for a ruckman in Max Noble. Adelaide, I think, had a really good mid part of this draft because they got a couple of really good young inside midfielders, Billy Dowling and then Hugh Bond a little bit later. Alwyn Davey Jr., the bid came in from Hawthorn there that Essendon matched. Richmond started their night with Caleb Smith. And then we saw Geelong then ending that round with Phoenix. Foster, who had a really good year for Norwood.
Yeah, Tom Scully, Port Adelaide, they waited a long time to get into the draft, but they've ended up with 3 players in the end, Tom Scully being one of those, a key forward. Jaden Davey, the twin of Alwyn, obviously get picked up as well then. So the first father-son twins in the AFL, which is fabulous. Noah Long, Kyle Marshall, the very last pick of this year's draft, off to Port Adelaide, a key defender as well. So Port Adelaide really stocking up their key pillars at either end of the ground. As we take a look now at some of the clubs and what they did, and we're going to start with the Giants, Riley, because they had 5 picks in the first 34, Cal, and it all started with Aaron Cadman, but Harry Ralston was probably a surprise to the Giants. It might have thrown their plans out a little bit, even though Adrian Caruso, when we spoke to him, he didn't let on about that.
No, I guess the fact that we often forget around Aaron Cadman is that he's a star and he's a really good player. Just because we've known
Cadman's definitely carrying that for sure.
I think people have sort of forgotten about it to some degree that he joined the Giants. He is their key forward that they want to build their team around. So Harry Ralston came a little bit later, their academy player. Darcy Jones at the end of the first round. Then they held on to their first pick tonight for the start of the second round, took the key defender in Max Krzyzewski and Toby McMullen. I'm a fan of. I think there's real upside in him as a small forward / midfield option too. So I like the mix. There is a mix there of picks. There's a key forward, there's an in and under midfielder, there's a bit of everything small. There's a key back and key forward in one in Krzyzewski, and Toby McMullen could be quite an exciting prospect. So I like the mix and the blend. And people talk about blend. When you've got 5 picks, you need to have a blend. I think they've made that deal.
And hopefully the Giants can actually hold on to some of these top draft picks, as well as we know, unfortunately, they've lost some of them in the trade period and the like. So really an interesting time with a new coach, as well as we look at North Melbourne, who also have a new coach, Riley, Harry Sheasel and George Wardlaw. I think we knew for a while they were going to go to North Melbourne, but Braden George, probably a forgotten player, given he's going to miss with an ACL injury next season, but what we saw from him is very, very talented.
Yeah, it is. Let's start at the top, though. They started this trade period, this off-season, with pick 1. And
that's a very good trade period, that. Not trade period, draft end.
And they got Harry Sheasel and George Wardlaw, which, I mean, you could have made an argument that either of those 2 players could have been in the pick 1 conversation themselves regardless. So Sheasel gives them a bit of forward half quality, which I really think they desperately needed. He'll be a goal kicker that'll probably play some football next year. And Wardlaw, we didn't see him, obviously, because of his hamstring injuries throughout the year. We didn't see a lot of him. But what we saw power. We saw a really inside baller player that can make a difference in that midfield group, which I think their midfield group needs. I like some of the players they've got there, but a lot still depends on Will Phillips and Tom Powell coming through to aid the likes of Luke Davies-Uniacke, Jai Simpkin and Ben Cunnington. Braden George, love this pick. You can give him time, but if you've got a young list, you've got that the patient approach. You can take that patient approach because you're not going to be in the window to challenge next year. Back the talent, back that he comes back in 2024 and makes an impact for your football club. And then Cooper Harvey, the good news story there for North Melbourne, the son of the AFL, VFL all-time games record holder in Brent Harvey. He comes to the club as a father.
Looking at the Pies, they took 3 selections because they actually traded out pick 30 to Carlton for a future second round, Cal. But Ed Allen, Jacob Ryan, a key defender there, and Joe Richards, who's a 22-year-old from Wangaratta. Nice to see some mature age players not born in the 2000s making their way onto the list.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting draft for me in that I feel like all these players were probably ranked a fair bit higher than the picks that they were taken from within. Like, we heard that the Jacob Ryan pick, he might have been linked to the Pies at pick 16. We had Derek Hine on the show a couple of days ago in Draft Night Countdown, and he said, oh, well, he's in the mix, and I think he was in that mix. So to get him at their second pick after Ed Allen probably slipped a couple of spots later than most people would have predicted heading into night 1 was a good win. And then Joe Richards as well. I think he was probably around the mark if they had stayed with their 3rd pick inside the top 30. They moved that back as part of a trade, so did that deal and managed to still get Joe Richards, who they've been interested in, to add some spark and spunk to that forward line alongside Jack Ginnivan. So that'll be an interesting mix as well.
And then finally, Riley, just looking at St Kilda and what they achieved in the draft, and it all started last night. Pick 10.
Yeah, they did fantastic.
Already been down to training today as a commander keen, but he is a really great talent.
He is, yeah. I was really intrigued by what St Kilda would do heading into this draft. They obviously started with pick 10. I think they were in a bit of a strange situation where they were probably just waiting to see whether or not it was Elijah Sardis, Cam McKenzie, Jai Clark, Ruben Ginbey, Mateus Philippou, which one fell through to them. It was Mateus Philippou in the end. I think they've got a really good player there. We spoke about the talent that he's got and that forward half ability that he's got, but he's also a young draftee. We mentioned that his birthday's not until December, so he's got a full year of development, another full year of development under his belt next year as well. And then I was really impressed with the pick of Ollie Houghton at 35. I think they needed a bit more X-factor forward of the ball. He provides that through his natural athleticism and his energy, a high-energy player and a lot of fun in terms of the way he attacks the ball and takes marks inside the forward half. So I like those two picks in terms of what they add from the forward half perspective. And then they strengthen key position stocks on either side of that pick of Ollie Houghton with James Van Ness, who's a key defender, and Isaac Healer, who can play as a key forward. So ultimately, I really like the mix that they got and the balance that they got in this draft pool, and the fact that they were able to start that with Mateus Philippou, who's I thought was one of the really top echelon players of this year's draft, and they were able to get him at pick 10. I think that was a big win for them to start the night.
So winners galore. Any surprises from each of you that you sort of think is worth talking about?
Oh, there's going to be some players who are unlucky to be missing out, and that's not a surprise as such, but it's more just the reality of how many picks there were on the table. As we said, 59 players drafted across the two nights. That's the lowest ever. That means that there's some really good players who are going to be unlucky, and some will get some opportunities in the rookie draft tomorrow. I think Blake Drew should get a chance, and I think he will as a rookie selection. I think Luke Teal is an option as well for a rookie selection. I think Mitch Skabowski will be an option as well as a rookie. So there's some good players who missed out, and that's a tough night for them. And as you've said, Riley, that there are a number of bounce-back stories in recent years with the mid-season draft. Harvey Gallagher being one of them tonight, who's overlooked last year in the national draft, overlooked in the mid-season draft, and comes back with a spell of form to get himself picked in the early enough part of the draft, really, where he wasn't in the danger zone. So, look, it's tough to be. It's never been tougher to be drafted. There's no doubt about that. And the players who've got their chance really deserve it. And there's a lot of players who missed out who would have deserved an opportunity as well, and you wouldn't have raised an eyebrow. So they'll go to bed tonight disappointed, but the rookie draft tomorrow is a new day, and there'll be some selections made, and there'll be also some opportunities through the pre-season supplemental period to get them to train on and show their wares. Nick Martin was overlooked this time last year.
Exactly. So the rookie draft, 3 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Time on afl.com.au and the AFL Live app. So, yes, the rookie draft and the pre-season draft with myself and Cal. So make sure you tune in for that. And that is it from us. It has been a huge 2 nights of the 2022 NAB AFL Draft. Congratulations and best of luck to all the draftees as they start a new chapter of their lives. Cal and Riley, thank you to you both. You have both done an inordinate amount of work. It's been crazy to watch you, in particular, making all of those phone calls every day for the last 3 weeks. So congratulations to both of you.
Thanks, Nat, and likewise to you. Big weekend for you getting to the AFLW Grand Final. Catching that flight. I know it was a charter flight, but you're at the front of the plane. But it's all good on that front. But it's good that you made time for the draft.
Oh, thanks as always. It's my favourite time of the year. Thank you as well to Sarah Ollie, who has been roaming around Marvel Stadium for us. Plus, a massive shout out to our fabulous producer Jack Haley, the crew, production team, graphics, and the team that's been on the floor in the studio keeping us hydrated for the night. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on NAB AFL Draft Night Live. The rookie and pre-season draft will be live here on afl.com.au and the AFL Live app tomorrow, as I mentioned, 3 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So hopefully you can join us then. Until then, good night.
All right, so we'll so Jacob Bryan. Alright, so we'll just quickly go through some of the guys that we picked up. So obviously, being at Collingwood and stuff, we're just going to quickly go through some of the players. So we're just going to go see some highlights real quick. So this is Jacob Bryan. This is our second pick. So obviously, Edward Allen was our first pick. So this is our second pick, Jacob Bryan.
Been around a little while, hasn't he? And he's running. Look at this Ryan go. That's not like Cornsey. Bounce 3, bounces down the wing, and pace.
So I'll start it from the start. All right, here we go. Noble, but obviously, you know, just that bit taller, probably a bit of a better mark. But you can see, oh God, come on.
We got it originally there.
Should we be taking a risk like this? You know, so again, you know, very, very good pick. And it's a very fly pick, I would say too. And we'll see if we can get another one. So this is again him in the sample. This is him kicking a goal. It obviously does extremely well there with a great passage of play. The other thing too, it shows that obviously he can play a bit on the wing, a bit in the midfield even too. I don't believe this is seniors, but obviously, yeah, he's definitely standing out. Obviously, we don't need him to be playing round one. I mean, he's a kid. He's 18 years old, so we shouldn't be expecting the world of him. But in saying that, you know, he's showing a lot of signs, and there's a lot of reasons to be excited of this kid, especially in a couple of years' time. Because, you know, he's obviously going to bulk up. He's going to get bigger, stronger, faster, things like that. So, yeah, obviously a fantastic pickup from the club. And a great pickup from a position need. We'll just finish off this video, though. But, yeah, but from a position need, we definitely needed that because we only had Quainer and Noble, really, in this bracket. I mean, you could probably throw in Rusco in there. But there wasn't a lot of... Well, maybe Maynard. You could throw Maynard in there to a certain extent, but... there wasn't a lot of talent in that department, so I do feel like we needed another one. Alright, so let's see if we can get another one going. Alright, we'll get this one. Alright, so again, taking the game on, being aggressive with that mark. I need a upgrade solution. Yeah, just being very solid, but then also very aggressive when needed. So you can see how the balance between him obviously trying to look at his options so he can actually keep a calm mind when needed, but then obviously when he needs to go, he can go. So that's obviously a great yeah, it's obviously a great sort of skill to have because, you know, the ability to know when to go, when to stay, you know, because not everything is going to be on. If you're just going to be aggressive at like every contest, you're not going to win all of your contests. Sometimes you need that calm mind and to make that decision, okay, I need to hold back a bit, or no, I need to give that extra 10% so I can get through this passage of play sort of thing. So again, as I said, this kid's a very fly type of kid. And yeah, it just shows, like, you can just see how he just wants to compete at the end of the day. Like, I mean, you can't ask for much more, to be honest. Let's see, he's always there. You know, I mean, we could probably maybe improve his kicking a bit, which, you know, will take time. But again, the mentality and the fact that, yeah, he's willing to take the game on is fantastic. Speed is awesome. You know, probably needs to clean up a little bit overall, but, like, you know, and be a bit more polished as a player. You know, but, I mean, yeah, I can see great things from this kid. Great things. Let's see, is there anyone... Alright, I think this is just, this is just his goal. Yeah, this is a good goal too. Bang. Kick that from about 52 meters. What a goal. Good on the kid. Alright, so we'll move on to the next one. So, Joe Richards. Alright, so for those who don't know, we'll do... Alright, so for those who don't know who Joe Richards is, He's basically a hybrid small. He's a hybrid small forward / midfielder. For Collingwood supporters watching, a comparison might be like a Josh Thomas. If you want a very specific comparison, the two players that, and I even said this, I believe it was either today or yesterday. The two players he actually reminds me of, and hear me out on this. The two players he actually reminds me of is that he looks like a Sam Dwyer, for those who remember back in the day when Sam Dwyer played some games for Collingwood. But if Sam Dwyer had the talent of DeGoey, and I know that's a massive, call to make, but his skills are X Factor like. His skills are fantastic, and I'm sure when you see this, you'll know what I mean. But he's basically if Sam Dwyer was playing, but then if Sam Dwyer had the skills of a DeGoey. Watch this, because this is amazing. Alright, we'll probably finish it off there, to be honest. So those are the two players. Let me know in the comments what you think of those players. Did we pick up some... the players we picked up, were they good in your opinion? Let me know. But I think with all that said, I would like to give a massive shout out to you guys. Like, you guys have been absolutely awesome this stream. Absolutely knocked it out of the park. Couldn't have asked for a better stream if I tried. But yeah, with all that being said, we have now reached to the end of the live stream. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Make sure to give it a like and make sure to subscribe for future content. But for now, we have now reached to the end of the stream, so that is it for me. Alright, see you guys.